Assalamualaikum, selamat pagi Bapak Ibu semua. Bu Novi, bisa mendengar suara saya?
Bisa, Mem. Sudah, Bu.
Alhamdulillah. Selamat pagi Bapak Willy.
Morning, Ibu. I'm testing my screen.
Silahkan Bapak.
Yeah, it's working now.
Ya,
Thank you.
sudah terlihat Bapak Nj. Terima kasih banyak Pak Willy. Sehat ya Bapak?
G, bentar ini.
Al-
Morning, Bu.
Selamat pagi. Alhamdulillah ketemu Bapak lagi.
G,
Terima kasih banyak Pak Willy.
matur nuwun, Mas Daud.
Matur nuwun. Ah ya, Mas Daud Nj.
G, Bu Novia.
Nggih, Bu Novia, Bu Pasca.
Ibu Pasca. Ini asli
Iya,
namanya
Pak
Pasca.
Willy. Yes,
Is
asli
that,
Pak Willy. Ini
oh,
asli
that's your
namanya,
name?
original ya.
Okay.
Nice to
Oh,
see you
good.
again, Pak
Yeah.
Willy.
Yeah, good to see you.
Bu Puci, Prof. Puci, selamat pagi.
Pak Ines, morning, Pak.
Selamat pagi Bu Yuni, Pak Willy, Bu Pasca, Bu
Morning.
Novi, Pak Duman.
Ye, dan Bu Yusefa juga sudah bergabung. Selamat pagi,
Oh,
Bu Yusefa.
Sampun.
Ye, lalu Bu
Bumita,
um,
nggih.
Ye,
Laksmita.
Bu Laksmita
Menika
juga sudah bergabung.
Mbak
selamat
Mita,
pagi Pak Willy, Bu Sri,
Mbak
Selamat
Mita
pagi.
Prof. Puji.
yang sebentar lagi selesai studinya, Mbak Mita. Halo,
Selamat
Alhamdulillah.
pagi Ibu Sri Wahyuni, Pak
halo,
Selamat
Willy.
pagi, Bu
Good
Yusefa.
morning.
Ye,
halo
good
Bu
Yes, good
Yosefa
morning.
sudah
morning.
selesai.
Morning.
Terima kasih banyak, Bu Laksmita, Bu Yusefa sudah berkenan.
Terima kasih kesempatannya Ibu.
Sami-sami, Bu. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu semua yang sudah bergabung. Ada Pak Ikhwan. Terima kasih Pak Ikhwan. Ada juga Bu Intan yang masih di Taiwan. Bu Intan, selamat pagi.
Bu Intan is doing what in Taiwan?
PhD
Studying?
Pak Willy. Ya, she's
Oh,
doing PhD.
that's interesting. In
Ya,
Taiwan. Hmm.
Taiwan.
Selamat pagi Bu Yuni,
Yeah.
Pak Willy.
Nah ini
Nice to
Morning.
Bu
see you
Intan.
here.
But Taiwan is so far away.
Ya,
Singapore is much nearer.
yes.
The people in the audience, are they mostly your students or participants from other universities?
Mostly are our students,
Okay.
but some are also from other
Sorry.
university, Pak
Hmm.
Willy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I see some familiar faces too. The alumni of Sanata Dharma University and
Oh, good.
some
Yeah.
students from Dharma University too.
Oh
That's
yeah,
nice.
thank you, Bu Yusefa. And one of my student was also the alumni of your university, and she was your students, Ibu Mita and Ibu Yusefa.
Oh, really? Who?
Yeah, Bu Hamidah. She is a teacher. She
Oh,
is a teacher from Rembang,
yeah.
SMP Rembang. Yeah, and she graduated already.
Mhm. Yes, I remember that name, Hamidah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oke, good morning, Mbak Aziza.
Bapak Ibu yang sudah berada di ruangan Zoom, silakan nyalakan kamera so that we can say hello to you. Students, teachers, friends, colleagues. Yes. Oh, Mbak Naning is here. Mbak Naning is from BRIN, Badan Riset apa ya, Inovasi Nasional ya. Puvana is here. Puvana is the teacher educator from Malaysia.
Hi,
Hey,
hi, sir.
Puvana.
Hi,
Hello.
everyone. Nice to see you, sir.
Yes, so nice to see your faces. Looking very bright and happy. I think your students are too shy to turn on their cameras. Mbak Dian, are you a student? Mbak Dian Sari? or teacher?
Yes, sir.
Teacher, student?
Berarti disebutkan di
Yeah, Mbak Dian Sari is master student, Pak Willy.
Okay, S2 students.
Yeah,
Studying at
S2 student at
UNES.
UNES.
Very
Yeah.
good. Ibu
And
Ibu
she is a
Zul-
teacher. She is a teacher
She is a
from,
teacher too.
yeah.
Ada Ibu Zulfa Sakia. Ibu Zulfa is from
Halo,
where?
Pak Willy.
Ibu Zulfa dari mana?
Di sini aja, Pak. Ada
Dari
teman
UNES ya?
lama, Mbak Yusefa sama Mbak Mita.
Oh, ngatan.
Iya.
Saking budi.
Halo, Mbak Sulfa.
Semarang, nggih.
Halo, Mbak Mita. Iya. Sehat, Mbak Mita.
Sehat, masih waras.
Senang ketemu lagi.
Iya.
Mbak Zulfa, tetangga saya.
Oh,
Halo, tetangga.
From where?
Bubur kacang hijau.
From Jogja? USD?
No, tetangga in Columbus, Pak Willy. We often exchange bubur kacang hijau and soto.
Oh, okay. So you were studying together?
No, Mbak Zulfa was a visiting scholar.
I see. Yes.
Right? For 6 months.
Yes. I think I've
Yes.
met you before, right? Ibu Sulva?
Yes.
Have I met you?
Yeah, I approached you during your seminar here in
Okay.
the faculty.
Yeah, I remember. Yes, I remember. Yes.
Yeah, that one.
Yes, very
Yeah.
brief Very brief
Yes.
encounter.
It was really brief encounter. But I would love to, extend the conversation. It's like,
Yes.
my transaction with Mbak Yusefa is she will give me kacang hijau and I will give her soto Semarang. So it's
Oh, nice. Yeah.
yeah.
So nice.
Okay, so hello everyone. Since it's already 9, I guess, would you please turn your camera on? So we're gonna start very soon. So yes, I think we can start right now. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guests and all participants. So I hope today is a good day to start. So ladies and gentlemen, to begin singing national anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya. All right. Thank you, and you may be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say welcome to our webinar, Collaboration, Creativity, and Critical Thinking in English Language Teaching, Master's Program of English Education, Faculty of Languages and Arts, Universitas Negeri Semarang, March 13, 2025. With me, Pasca Kalisa is the Master of Ceremony for this 2-hour webinar. We proudly present this webinar initiated and organized by Master's Program of English Education, Faculty of Languages and Arts, and students, lecturers, and teachers. It's all over Indonesia. It's not only from UNES, but also from other regions in Indonesia. And here I'd like to say thank to Dean of Faculty of Language and Arts, which is not, he's not present here. And Ibu Dr. Sri Wahyuni as the program coordinator for facilitating this webinar. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we already have 5 distinguished speakers joining in front of us today. So let me greet firstly the first one, Dr. Willy Arenandia from Nanyang Technological University. Hello, Pak Willy.
Good
Nice to
morning
see
to
you
you.
again.
Good to see you.
Yes. And the second one, Ibu Profesor Puji Astuti, PhD from Universitas Negeri Semarang. Hello, Bu Puji.
Hello, Bu Pasca and everyone.
And the next will be Ibu Yusefa Aryani, PhD from Universitas Sanata Dharma. Hello, Ibu Yusefa.
And good morning, everyone.
And the next Ibu is the same from Universitas Sanata Dharma, Ibu Christina Laksmita Anandari, MED. Hello, Ibu.
Hello, Bu Pasca. Good morning, everyone.
And the last one will be Professor Çiğdem Fidan, PhD from Republic of Turkey, Ministry of National Education and Middle East Technical University. Hello, Professor Fidan.
She's joining us soon, Bu Pasca.
Okay, so she will be joining. Okay, so thank you very much, all speakers, for coming to the webinar today. And I also would like to thank all participants of this webinar for attending on Zoom and on YouTube as well. We have a live streaming on YouTube. So ladies and gentlemen, to start, we're going to have a welcoming speech from English Education Master's Program, Ibu Dr. Sri Wahyuni, and also to officially open our webinar today. So the Honorable Ibu Dr. Wahyuni, floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much, Ibu Pasca Kalisa, the Master of Ceremony, for the time and opportunity given to me. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. The Honorable Dean of Faculty of Languages and Arts, Universitas Negeri Semarang. Hopefully he will join us, or probably the representative, the Vice Deans will join us soon. The honorable speakers of today's webinar, Bapak Dr. Willy Arenandia from Nanyang Technological University. Terima kasih banyak Bapak rawuhipun.
Sami-sami, Bu. Nggih.
The Honorable Professor Çiğdem Fidan from Republic of Turkey, Ministry of Education and Middle East Technical University, Turkey, and she is going to join us soon. The Honorable Ibu Christina Laksmita Anandari, MED, and Ibu Yusefa Aryani Iswandari, PhD, from Universitas Sanata Dharma Yogyakarta. Thank you, Ibu Mita and Ibu Yusefa. The Honorable Ibu Professor Puji Astuti, PhD, my lovely colleague.
Hello,
Thank you.
Ibu. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you very much. The Honorable my colleagues, Bapak Ibu dosen of the English Department, Universitas Negeri Semarang. Distinguished guests, Bapak Ibu guru, English teachers, students, and all participants and the organizing committee. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. It's really my great pleasure, Bapak Ibu, to welcome you all to this exciting webinar on collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking in English language teaching. I'm really honored to have distinguished speakers from 3 different countries, Singapore, Indonesia, and Turkey, who will share their expertise and insights on these essential 21st century skills in the context of English language teaching and learning. First and foremost, I would like to extend my sincere appreciations to our Dean of the Faculty of Languages and Arts for all the support that making this webinar happen. And this webinar is a special collaboration, which is actually initiated originally by Bapak Willy. Thank you very much, Pak Willy.
Most welcome.
Yeah, and my colleague, Ibu Professor Puji Astuti. Thank you very much for connecting us, Ibu Puji. And hopefully that their visions and efforts will bring us here together for this very meaningful exchange of knowledge and ideas. And we are also very privileged to hear from Ibu Mita and also Ibu Yusefa from Universitas Sanata Dharma Yogyakarta, and from Professor Fidan from Turkey, and of course from Bapak Willy Arenanya himself from Singapore, and also my colleague Ibu Puji Astuti. Their diverse perspectives will surely inspire us to think deeper, create more innovatively, and collaborate more effectively in ELT context. Thank you very much again, Bapak Ibu, and we hope that this cooperation will continue in the future. I would also like to thank the organizing committee for the hard work to make this webinar happen. And to all participants joining us today, thank you for being here, and we hope that this session sparks new ideas, meaningful discussions, and also valuable connections. Without further ado, let me double check first. Ibu Pasca, is Pak WD present already?
Oh,
Ibu
yes.
Pasca?
Yeah, it's here, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's here. Yeah.
Pak Eko is here. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, Pak Eko. Bapak Dr. Eko Raharjo, so the Vice Dean of Academic and Student Affairs, who will officially open this event. So thank you very much, Bapak Ibu, for your coming. Enjoy the webinar, and mohon izin, mohon perkenan, Bapak Dr. Eko Raharjo M. Hum, Wakil Dekan Bidang Akademik dan Kemahasiswaan, untuk membuka kegiatan ini secara resmi. Mohon berkenan Bapak Eko Raharjo. Thank you very much Bapak Ibu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yes, Bapak Ibu, thank you so much, Ibu Dr. Wahyuni, for the inspiring speech and to welcome us today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite the Vice Dean for Academic and Student Affairs, Faculty of Languages and Arts Universitas Negeri Semarang, the Honorable Bapak Dr. Eko Raharjo M. Hum. The floor is yours. Bapak WD.
Jadi sekedap komunikasi dengan Pak Widido. Terima kasih Bu Pasca. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua yang sama-sama kita hormati Bu Korprodi S2 Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris, Bu Dr. Sri Wahyuni. Kemudian di sini ada narasumber kita, Prof. Puji, Bu Prof. Puji, pagi Prof. Puji. Kemudian Pak Willy, selamat bertemu kembali Pak Willy. Kayaknya
Selamat
kita
bertemu
perlu
kembali
ketemu
Pak Eko.
di
Pak,
ketemu di EBS ya Pak Willy.
Nggih.
Pak Dr. Willy. Kemudian Bu Cikdem Fidan, betul mohon maaf kalau saya salah sebut. Kemudian Bu Yusefa Aryani Iswandari Isdi.
Selamat
Kemudian
pagi Bapak.
Pagi. Kemudian Bu Kristina Laksmita Andari, MED.
Selamat pagi,
Selamat pagi
Pak.
Bu Kristina.
Selamat pagi.
Dan yang sama-sama kita hormati seluruh peserta webinar pada pagi hari ini. Pertama-tama kita panjatkan puji syukur kehadirat Ilahi Rabbi bahwa pada hari ini kita masih diberi nikmat sehat untuk bisa bertemu dalam kegiatan webinar pagi hari ini. Yang pertama-tama salam dari Pak Dekan karena beliau pada jam yang bersamaan harus memimpin rapat Senat sehingga mewakilkan kepada kami untuk membuka kegiatan ini. Yang kedua adalah kami ucapkan sekali lagi selamat kepada program studi S2 Pendidikan Bahasa Inggris serta dosen serta mahasiswa, dan ini kalau nggak salah kerjasama dengan Sanata Dharma aja Bu. Bu.
Betul,
Nggih,
Bapak.
nggih.
Betul.
Jadi kalau zaman saya kuliah dulu terkenal dengan IKIP Sadar itu IKIP Sanata Dharma, sekarang menjadi Universitas Sanata Dharma. Kalau nggak salah gitu, nggih Bu Kris, nggih. Nggih. Ya, selamat untuk kolaborasi dalam webinar ini dan mudah-mudahan kegiatan ini dapat berjalan dengan lancar, membawa manfaat dan barokah untuk kita semua yang dilaksanakan di bulan Ramadan, bulan penuh berkah. Mudah-mudahan kegiatan ini juga tentunya membawa berkah untuk seluruh hadirin pada kegiatan webinar kali ini. Dan sekali lagi kami mengucapkan selamat dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Kegiatan webinar pada pagi hari ini saya nyatakan dibuka. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Demikian yang dapat kami sampaikan. Lebih kurangnya mohon dimaafkan. Billahi taufiq hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Matur nuwun. Mohon izin
Waalaikumsalam
saya juga
warahmatullahi
langsung
wabarakatuh.
mengundurkan diri karena
Mohon Bapak.
bergabung
Oke,
ke
semoga Pak.
Terima
konferensi.
kasih banyak,
Terima
Bapak
kasih.
WC
Terima kasih,
1.
Pak.
Sehat selalu,
Terima
sukses
kasih
G untuk
banyak.
semua.
Terima kasih banyak,
Oke.
Bapak. Sehat selalu.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi
Turun.
wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, our Vice Dean for Academics and Student Affairs, for delivering the opening remarks today. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our opening today. So without any further ado, let us welcome Ibu Dr. Novia Trisanti as the moderator of today's webinar session. Ibu Novia Trisanti, the
Yes, okay, Ibu Pasca, thank you very much. So everybody can hear my voice?
Yes, very
All right.
clear.
Clear,
Thank you
Bu
very,
Novi.
all right, thank you very much. So, Bismillah, saya mulai ya, Ibu Yuni.
Silahkan Ibu Novi, terima
Ya.
kasih.
Ya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Selamat pagi, Bapak, Ibu, dosen, dan guru-guru bahasa Inggris ya di small level ya, SD, SMP, SMA mungkin yang hadir di sini, and then also adik-adik mahasiswa S1, S2, dan mungkin juga ada S3 beberapa. So thank you very much for all your presence today. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to this webinar on collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking in English language teaching, hosted by Master's Program in English Education, Universitas Negeri Semarang. My name is Novia Trisanti, and I'm honored to serve as moderator for today's session. All right, before we begin, I'd like to warmly welcome and express my deepest appreciation to our distinguished keynote speakers. The first is Dr. Willy Arenandia from Nanyang Technological University. Say good morning, Dr. Willy.
Good morning to
Ya,
you, Ibu.
ya, saya sudah sering melihat Pak Willy ya di webinar, di seminar, tapi mungkin Pak Willy nggak kenal saya ya. Alright,
Kenal Ibu Novia kenal.
So you were from Semarang. I heard that you were from Semarang, Pak Willy.
Yes, yes.
All right. So welcome again to Semarang, Pak Willy. Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
a pleasure to have you with us. Okay, so and the next speakers is Ibu Yosefa Aryani Iswandari PhD and also Ibu Christina Laksmita Anandari MED from Sanata Dharma University. Apa kabar Ibu-ibu?
Baik,
Kabar
selamat
baik.
pagi, Bu Novia.
Yosefa dan juga Ibu Christina Laksmita. Ya, oke. Jogja baik-baik saja ya.
Aman.
Aman.
Okay. hope all is well in Yogyakarta. All right.
Yeah.
My sister is in Jogja and she sent warm regard to you. Her name is Prawisti Ekasanti, Ibu Yosefa.
Yeah. Yesterday we talked.
Oh, okay.
Salam kenal Ibu Novia. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Okay. So, and the next is Prof. Puji Astuti, PhD from Universitas Negeri Semarang. Apa kabar, Prof. Ines?
Alhamdulillah baik, Bu
Yeah, okay.
my roommate.
All right. It's
Good to
wonderful to see you here in good conditions. Sehat selalu. Okay. And then Madam Chikdem Fidan, PhD from Republic of Turkey Ministry of National Education and Middle East Technical University. Is he here now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so I hope that later she can join this webinar. So thank you all for joining us and for sharing your expertise. So we are excited to learn from your insights and we truly appreciate your time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now let's begin our sessions. So to ensure a smooth and engaging session, here are a few key guidelines. So each speaker will have 15 to 20 minutes for their presentations. And we encourage participants to share their thoughts and questions in the chat box throughout the session. So the question and answer session will take place after all the presentations, where we will address selected questions from the audience. Yeah. So please keep your microphone muted during presentations to minimize background noise. And also, please, you can on your camera. All right. So now, without further ado, let us begin. I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Willy Arenandia. So before that, I would like to read his short biography. Dr. Willy Arenandia is a language teacher educator with extensive teaching experience in Asia. He currently teaches language education courses in Singapore, including at NIE, NTU, SUSS, and RELC. He is also a visiting or adjunct professor at Chulalongkorn University, Thailand, and Wuhan University, China. He has given numerous keynote presentations at international ELT conferences and has published extensively in the area of second language education. One of his publications include Language Teaching Methodology, an anthology of current practice in 2002, published by Cambridge University Press. And there are a lot of or more published that Pak Willy already published. All right. He also maintains a large teachers professional development forum called Teacher Voices in Facebook. All right. And Dr. Willy also has his website, yeah, willyrenandia.com. So please visit his website. All right. So for today's webinar, Dr. Willy Renandia will deliver the topic of critical thinking. Why is it hard to teach? So let us now proceed with Dr. Renanda's presentations. Dr. Renandia, the time is yours.
Ibu Novia, thank you so much. Matur nuwun.
Sami-sami, Prof. Sami-sami, Dokter.
Asli Semarang menika.
Sami, Prof.
Kalau Semarang lagi kita ketemu nggih.
Inshallah, yeah.
Bapak Ibu, yes, today's topic is critical thinking, a very, very important topic. And I think I need slightly more than 20 minutes, maybe 22 minutes. Yeah, Bu, ya. Bu Novi, please don't stop me.
All right. Okay, Pak Willy.
Yes, but please keep the time for me. So it's about critical thinking. But before I start talking about critical thinking, I would like to introduce to you very, very briefly about my university. It's Nanyang Technological University, and I belong to the School of Education, Fakultas Pendidikan di sana namanya National Institute of Education atau disingkat NIE. Ada yang nyebutnya NIE, bukan NIE tapi NIE. Ini beberapa teman yang sudah selesai S3 tahun lalu dari UM Malang, ada dua, satu dari UNJ Jakarta dan satu dari Kementerian Finance, Keuangan Jakarta. Itu tahun lalu selesai dan tahun ini itu ada 3 yang sedang studi S3. Mudah-mudahan teman dari UNES atau dari universitas lainnya mungkin bisa mencari informasi. My university is one of the universitas prioritas under LPDP. So if you go to the LPDP website, you'll be able to find, my university listed there as one of the universitas prioritas untuk calon penerima beasiswa dari LPDP. Okay, I think we should get started now, Ibu Novia. I'm going to ask you some questions, and please respond very quickly. Do not think too slowly. Driving is safer than flying. Betul, Bu? Atau salah, Ibu? Cepat ya, Bu ya.
Flying is all right. Women
Yes or
are
no?
bad driver.
No, the
Number
first
one.
one. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes,
For me,
okay.
yes.
Driving is safer than flying. Yes. Yang kedua, women are bad drivers. Ibu Wahyuni,
Yes.
women are bad
Yes.
drivers. Yes, betul.
Yes, sir.
Women are bad drivers.
Referring to
nomor 3.
myself.
Yang nomor 3, rich people are greedy and selfish. Yes, no? Please nod your head or shake your head. Rich people are greedy and selfish. Betul?
Maybe yes.
Maybe yes, maybe no. People with tattoos. Itu kalau melihat seorang teman, baik pria wanita, yang banyak tatonya begitu. Are they troublemakers? Yes, no?
Usually, yes.
Not
Usually,
always.
yes.
Not always.
Okay. And number 5, people from Singapore are smart. Please say yes.
It's a difficult statement. Yes.
Learning English is hard. Betul? Belajar bahasa itu
Yes.
susah sekali.
Yeah.
Betul?
For some
Yes.
students, ya.
Ya, Bapak Ibu, kalau kita berpikir lebih lambat, lebih tenang begitu ya, jawaban dari pertanyaan-pertanyaan di atas itu bisa bervariasi. Driving is safer than flying. Jawabannya ternyata tidak. Data mengatakan tidak. Flying is much safer. Naik pesawat maksudnya bukan terbang sendiri, tapi naik pesawat begitu. Women are bad drivers? No, some are bad, but men are also bad drivers. So the moment we start thinking very carefully, the moment we start looking at the data that is available, then we'll have a much better answers to questions, to problems that we are dealing with. Rich people are greedy and selfish? Iya ada, but there are also good people, rich people who are very generous, who are very good. People with tattoos, are they troublemakers? Some, yes, but many are good people, decent people, family, people, and they're nice people. People from Singapore are smart. Not all of them. Some are smart, just like in any other places in the world. Some are smart, some are not so smart. And some looks very intelligent, but others are not that intelligent. Learning English is hard. Betul atau salah? Nanti kita jawab pertanyaan ini di akhir. Ya, at the end of my presentation, let's respond to these questions. Learning English is hard. If you ask me, the answer is no, it's not hard. But please ask me if you are with me in terms of the perception of people that learning English is hard work. Yeah. Okay, Bapak Ibu sekalian, today I'll be sharing with you 3 major thoughts or 3 major ideas. Yang pertama, Ibu Novia, what is critical thinking? Yang kedua adalah why should we be teaching critical thinking? Ya. Sebelum kita bertanya why, kita harus tahu dong apa itu critical thinking begitu. Yang ketiga, why is critical thinking hard to teach? Hard to teach doesn't mean that it's impossible to teach. We can teach critical thinking as long as we understand really well what critical thinking is all about and why critical thinking is important. I think we'll be in a much better position to be helping, to be supporting our students to think more critically. Okay, let's begin with the first one. So what is critical thinking? Yeah, I have a very easy, very simple definition for us to think about, for us to consider together. Now here is my definition. Critical thinking. Critical thinking itu bukan sesuatu yang aneh, yang misterius, itu tidak sebetulnya. Critical thinking adalah thinking clearly, berpikir dengan jernih. Thinking carefully, berpikir dengan cermat, dengan hati-hati. Thinking slowly, nggak bisa cepat-cepat. We cannot think too fast. If we think too fast, I think our decisions, we will not be able to understand what the problem we are dealing with, and we may not be able to make good decisions to solve problems that we are facing. Ya, diulang ya. Critical thinking adalah thinking clearly, thinking carefully, and thinking slowly. Okay? For what? So that we understand before we make decisions, so that we understand before we answer questions, so that we can later make good decisions. That to me is what critical thinking is all about. Ya. Definisi yang kelihatannya mudah seperti itu ternyata agak sedikit kompleks betulnya. Because critical thinking itu membutuhkan banyak hal. Critical thinking requires, yang pertama adalah we need to have vast knowledge base. Kita harus punya banyak sekali pengetahuan, pemahaman, pengetahuan mengenai tempat tinggal, pengetahuan mengenai negara, knowledge about the economy, knowledge about religion, knowledge about how the world functions in the world, in many different places. Knowledge about history, knowledge about culture. Itu semua sangat dibutuhkan untuk membuat seseorang menjadi lebih kritis. Yang kedua, and that is not enough, you also need to have deep knowledge about things. Kalau hanya pengetahuan umum saja, itu seringkali tidak pas, tidak lengkap begitu. We need to have deep knowledge about things. Yeah. If you ask me about English language teaching, broadly speaking, I can answer any questions that you have about English language teaching. Yeah. But my answer may not be very deep, may not be very critical. But if you ask me about something that I know very, very much about, yang saya dalami, yang saya kuasai, I think I can be very, very critical. For example, if you ask me questions about reading, about literacy, for example, ya, itu saya bisa menjawab dengan lebih kritis, dengan lebih bagus, begitu. But if you ask me about general things about education, I can answer, but my answer may not be very critical, may not be very insightful. Yeah, deep knowledge is important. Vast knowledge is important. Yeah, you also need to have questioning mind. Ya, kemampuan atau apa itu namanya skill untuk bertanya. You need to ask questions. If you don't ask questions, I think chances are your decision may not be very accurate. Your decision may not be very critical. Your thinking may not be very clear in the first place. You should also be able to consider multiple perspectives, multiple point of view. You need to have an open mind. You need to be receptive to ideas, given by different people. Yeah, multiple perspectives. Yang berikutnya adalah the willingness to check and double check and triple check before you make decisions. Yang terakhir sangat penting sekali adalah drawing temporary conclusions. Jadi tidak ada yang namanya ini keputusan saya yang terakhir, ini kesimpulan saya ya itu, kalau bukan itu nggak bisa. I think that will, close your mind basically. That will not enable you to consider other positions, other points of view, other perspectives. Yeah. So that is what critical thinking is all about. Ya, diulang ya. Critical thinking itu thinking clearly, thinking slowly, thinking carefully. Untuk apa? So that we can solve problems, so that we can make good decisions. Ini bisa diaplikasikan dimanapun, di rumah, di tempat pekerjaan. Itu critical thinking is needed, is required. If you're willing to think slowly, clearly, and carefully. Yeah. And for you to be able to think clearly, you need to have a lot of knowledge. Even better if you have deep knowledge about things before you can make decisions. So the importance of you collecting as much information as possible before you make decisions. Kira-kira begitu ya. That is what critical thinking is all about. Terus yang kedua, why teach critical thinking? Pada waktu kita mengajar sejarah, pada waktu kita mengajar the sciences, matematika, atau mengajar bahasa misalnya. Kenapa sih kita harus mengajarkan critical thinking? Now, here are some of the reasons. Very quick ya. Yang pertama ini, critical thinking. Simply because education today is not about remembering facts. Facts are not important for us to remember. Facts are widely available in the classroom and more so outside the classroom with the availability of the internet, technology, AI and all that. Information is out there. We don't have to remember every single thing. Yeah, so remembering is just a very, very basic things that we don't need to emphasize too much about. Yeah. So it's education today is about thinking what you don't know and how to know more. Okay, so education today is not about us teachers or educators, providing a lot of factual information to the students. No, but we are teaching our students to think about what is there and what else is not yet known by the students and by the teachers. Yeah, too often we give children answers to remember rather than problems to solve. There's nothing wrong about, asking students questions and requiring good answers from the students. That one is okay. But I think if we are really serious about developing, growing our students' ability to think clearly, I think we need to do things differently in the classroom. Give them a problem to solve. Yeah, give them a project to work together, because that kind of task will require the students to do more thinking, not just remembering, but they have to, to think about the problem very carefully, and they will have to consider different perspectives, and they have to discuss, the solution with their friends and all that before they can solve the problem. Yeah. Maka dari itu, topik pada hari ini itu sangat relevan sekali karena itu menyangkut skill-skill yang sangat dibutuhkan di dunia sekarang ini. Ya, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. Ini 4 skill ini juga seringkali disebut sebagai transversal skills. Transversal skills adalah skills yang bisa dipakai di manapun, di tempat kerja apapun, di situasi kehidupan apapun yang kita hadapi sehari-hari. Namanya transversal skill, atau sering disebut portable skill, begitu loh. Skill yang bisa dipakai di mana aja. So today's theme actually is very, very important, whether you are a language teacher, whether you are a researcher, whether you are a nurse, whether you are a student, whether you're a policeman, whether you're working in a bank, for example, these skills are extremely important for you. Okay? Itu ya alasan yang pertama. Jadi kita lebih berfokus tidak mengajarkan fakta-fakta yang begitu mudah sekali zaman sekarang untuk didapat dari internet, dari Google, atau dari manapun. But kita mengajar siswa untuk berpikir dengan lebih kritis, berkolaborasi, apa itu namanya, berpikir secara kritis, dan mengajar siswa untuk lebih banyak bertanya, tidak hanya memberi jawaban tapi juga bertanya, begitu ya. Which is about what the second question, the second reason why critical thinking is important is this: education is about empowering students to ask questions, not just answer questions. Ini Pak Novi tahu ya yang namanya Isaac Newton itu ya Bu ya, yang menemukan itu loh Bu, apa namanya, hukum gravitasi. Pernah dengar ya Bu
Iya,
Novi ya?
iya pernah mendengar, cuma saya tidak mendalami aja.
Ya, jadi ceritanya itu beliau itu suatu hari duduk di bawah pohon begitu, di bawah pohon apel. Tahu-tahu ada pohon apel yang jauh dari atas. Nothing unusual, tapi beliau bertanya, loh, jatuhnya kok ke bawah, kok tidak ke atas, begitu loh. Ya, so a brilliant idea, a brilliant discovery, penemuan yang begitu luar biasa itu diawali dengan sebuah pertanyaan. Pertanyaannya terasa aneh sekali. Buah kok jatuh dari pohon jatuh ke bawah begitu. Dan dia bertanya, kok tidak jatuh ke atas begitu. Nah, setelah didalami, diteliti, he spent quite a bit of time trying to understand. Akhirnya he came up with the theory of hukum gravitasi bumi ya, begitu. So it all begins with the questions, gitu. Apakah kita bertanya di dalam kelas pada waktu kita mengajar Ibu Laksmita? Apakah kita bertanya? Ibu bertanya banyak dalam kelas pada siswanya? Pasti iyalah ya. Iya,
Yeah.
pasti iya. Yeah. I think questioning is one, pedagogical strategy that teachers use in the classroom, bertanya. Tapi ternyata setelah diteliti, pertanyaan kita itu lebih banyak masuk dalam kategori pertanyaan yang sederhana, thin questions, yang jawabannya pendek-pendek dan singkat-singkat dan mudah dijawab oleh siswa begitu. Namanya thin questions. Yeah, can you find, usually one-word answers, usually correct answer or incorrect answer that the students give you. Very simple. Yeah, don't usually ask the other type of question. Pertanyaan yang menuntut siswa untuk berpikir. Jawabannya bisa panjang dan kadang-kadang tidak ketemu jawabannya. Nah, itu kita tidak terlalu suka rupanya di kelas. Justru pertanyaan-pertanyaan seperti itu yang membuat siswa berpikir gitu. Questions that are harder to answer, questions whose answers require evidence, perlu bukti, perlu data, pertanyaan yang membutuhkan siswa untuk berpikir, pertanyaan yang memungkinkan siswa memberikan 3, 4, atau 5 jawaban yang berbeda. Tapi guru-guru rupanya tidak terlalu senang dengan itu. Maunya jawabannya ya satu gitu loh. A, B, C, D, pilih jawabannya A atau B atau C atau D. Itu kita tidak mengajar critical thinking, kita hanya mengajarkan fakta. Fakta yang zaman sekarang itu begitu mudah didapat. Begitu. Oke? Yang kedua. Jadi yang pertama tadi adalah education is not just about remembering. Yang kedua, education is about asking questions, asking good questions, the kind of questions that require deeper level of thinking. Yang ketiga adalah education is about teaching students to become independent learners. Ya, di kelas kita memberikan bimbingan, memberikan guidance, memberikan tuntunan, tapi tujuan akhirnya adalah membuat siswa menjadi seseorang yang bisa belajar mandiri di luar kelas, setelah dewasa, setelah masuk di dunia pekerjaan misalnya. That's what we want to do eventually, ya. And because of that, we need to teach our students to acquire knowledge, memperoleh knowledge. Ya, kita ajarkan caranya, what kind of knowledge they need, where to find that knowledge, how to find that knowledge, which one to keep, which one to throw away, which one we don't need right now. Itu adalah hal-hal yang perlu kita ajarkan sekarang. Remember, knowledge is not in the classroom today. Knowledge is not in our head. If you are a teacher, if you believe that you are the dispenser of knowledge, I think you're mistaken, because pengetahuan sekarang ini ada di mana-mana. Ya, banyak sekali pengetahuan itu di luar kelas, di internet, di artificial intelligence misalnya. Those are sources of knowledge. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So today there's massive information that is available. Good information and bad information, and that's our job, teaching our students to acquire good knowledge, useful knowledge to our students. Ya, because informasi yang ada sekarang itu berupa informasi yang belum diolah, belum difilter. Yang kita ajarkan pada siswa adalah cara memilih, memilah, memfilter, mengevaluasi information atau knowledge yang tersedia di dunia maya, begitu. Oke? Ibu Wahyuni, Ibu Wahyuni,
Yes,
ini
sir.
ada beberapa sumber informasi yang bisa diperoleh di internet mengenai penyakit kanker. Katakanlah ada seseorang yang bertanya pada Ibu Wahyuni, Ibu Wahyuni ini ada teman atau saudara saya yang menderita penyakit kanker. Nah, ini ada beberapa sumber yang bisa diakses di internet. Yang pertama ini dari YouTube, yang kedua itu dari TikTok, yang ketiga dari CNN, yang keempat dari situs Mayo Clinic, gitu. Nah, siswa yang masih muda biasanya mereka tidak tahu yang mana gitu loh, yang mereka harus baca, yang bisa diambil informasi yang bermanfaat mengenai penyakit begitu. Ya, Bu Wahyuni silahkan pilih satu, A, B, C, D.
A,
Yang
B,
terakhir,
C,
Bu.
D. Oh ya, A, B, C, D. Dari atas CNN ini yang A ya, Prof?
Iya, ya, itu yang A,
Oke.
betul ya.
A, oke. Saya pilih yang
Yang
D,
terakhir, Bu, yang bagus, Bu.
yang D,
Yang
Prof.
ya, betul, yang Mayo Clinic ya. Mayo
Ya.
Clinic itu adalah situs yang dikelola oleh para medical professional. Jadi informasinya mestinya lebih bisa dipercaya dan lebih bisa dipertanggungjawabkan begitu. Lah anak-anak kita kan nggak ngerti begini loh. Yang begini nggak tahu. Pokoknya apa yang ada di dunia maya itu mereka percaya begitu. Tugas kita, it's our job as a teacher, as an educator, to teach our students to choose the kind of information that is useful, that is credible, that is accurate. Alasan yang keempat, education is about knowing what is true and what is false. Nah, ini seru sekali nih. Apa yang benar, apa yang salah. Memberitahu pada siswa what is true and what is not true, because these days there's so much misinformation and disinformation that is floating around on a daily basis, 24 hours a day. Yeah, again, it's our job to teach our students to distinguish between facts atau misinformation atau fake news begitu. Ya, Bu Novia, if you see something like this on your screen, would you believe that this is really true?
3 companies that will pay you to travel? No.
Tidak
No.
ya. Tapi anak-anak muda itu bisa percaya loh Ibu loh. They can believe this and they will just go to the site and they apply for a position that pays you $1,000 or $3,000 a month. Yang ini Bu, yang kedua, AI will replace teachers. Yes.
It can be.
It can be, yes, it's possible.
It can be,
Yeah,
yes.
it can be. So it's not a true or false kind of a situation, but the answer is it can be. At least AI will replace teachers who don't know how to use AI in the classroom. Ya.
Yeah.
Terus, kalau yang ini,
Master of English tenses. No. No.
ya kalau kita ngerti karena kita menguasai bidang ini, kita akan mengatakan
Yeah.
no way, ya. Tapi ini dijual ke masyarakat sebetulnya, dan masyarakat banyak yang percaya begitu loh, ya. Why? Because they don't have sufficient knowledge to evaluate, to make decisions about whether this information is betul atau salah begitu. Yang ini Bu sangat terkenal sekali ini.
Of course not. Of course.
Ini laku keras Ibu, laku keras luar biasa. Tarifnya bisa bervariasi dari 3 juta rupiah sampai 10 juta rupiah. Dan itu betul selesai dan terbit memang begitu.
Oh,
Scary,
really?
isn't it? Ya, betul.
Yes, scary.
Very scary. Nah, kalau Bapak Ibu mencari sesuatu teknik untuk mengajarkan critical thinking, ada satu cara yang sangat mudah. Ini it's an idea that was suggested by the National Library Board in Singapore. Ya, dengan akronim SURE, SURE. Ya, kita ajar siswa untuk yang pertama, tahu dulu dong sumbernya dari mana begitu. What is the source? What is the origin? Ini dari sosial media atau dari website resmi atau dari website di kampus dan sebagainya. What is the source? Yang kedua, pada waktu kita membaca, do you really understand what you are reading? Do you really understand what is being presented in the newspaper, in the magazine, or on the internet? If the answer is no, I am not very sure about what it is, the next step is R. And R stands for research. Research here simply means find out more. Ask your friends, ask your teachers, ask your parents. Yeah, try to understand what it is about. And that is what thinking clearly, thinking carefully is all about. Setelah itu baru yang I terakhir, namanya evaluate. Yeah. So you can teach your students very simple acronym. Are you sure? Are you sure? So before you make decisions, make sure that you understand what the source is, and make sure whether you really, really understand what you are reading. And number three, if you're not very sure, then find out more. Ask questions. Ask your parents. Ask your teachers. Ask your friends. And once you have gone through the first, second, and third steps, you are now in a position to evaluate, to make decisions about the credibility of the information or the idea presented on the internet. Yang kelima, Yang kelima adalah education is about teaching students to think more clearly and objectively. And this is what critical thinking is all about, ya, Bapak Ibu sekalian. Thinking clearly and thinking objectively. Ini ada seorang tokoh pendidik yang sangat luar biasa, if you ask me, namanya Edward de Bono. Edward de Bono itu mencoba menganalisa, mencoba memvisualisasikan cara kita berpikir. Nah, cara kita berpikir itu diwakili dengan 6 topik yang berwarna-warni. Ya, kadang-kadang kita memakai topi yang putih. Jadi kita berpikir berdasarkan fakta. Kadang-kadang kita berpikir dengan memakai topi merah. Nah, topi merah itu adalah berpikir berdasarkan perasaan. Kadang kita berpikir dengan topi hitam. Itu berpikir dengan memperhatikan apa resikonya, apa minus poinnya, dan sebagainya. Begitu. Ya, it's very interesting. Ini. So, red hat. Ya, kita berpikir dengan perasaan. Yang white hat, kita berpikir dengan fakta, data yang ada di lapangan. Yellow hat, itu kita berpikir dengan memperhatikan apa benefitnya, apa yang bisa saya dapat dari situasi itu. Black hat itu adalah difficulties, potential problems, why something may not work, and so on. Kemudian green hat, apakah ada solusi lain, apakah ada opsi lain. Yang blue hat itu bagaimana kita mengevaluasi cara kita berpikir gitu. Nah, yang sering kita lihat, yang sering terjadi di lapangan, Bu Novi, kita itu berpikir memakai topi yang mana, Bu Novi?
Red hat.
Betul sekali. Kita sering nggak sadar gitu loh. We are not aware that cara kita berpikir itu didominasi dengan yang namanya emosi, perasaan, naluri, insting, dan sebagainya begitu. Maka tidak mengherankan bahwa kita tidak bisa berpikir dengan jernih, we can't think very clearly, and we make faulty decisions. And our decision usually is not a very good one because we are just, basing our thoughts on emotions, on intuitions, and so on and so forth. Gitu ya, Bu ya. Ya. Yang alasan yang keenam, education is about teaching students to become more open-minded and tolerant. Nah, tanpa ini kayaknya kita tidak bisa berpikir kritis. Sulit sekali kalau kita tidak mau membuka diri, tidak mau respect differences and realizing that people are different. Orang itu, manusia itu berbeda begitu loh. And perbedaan itu memang harus diakui dan diresapi begitu. Kalau tidak, kita akan berpikir dengan satu arah, topi merah terus yang kita pakai begitu. We are just wearing our red hat all the time. Yeah, we're not wearing our white hat. The white hat tells us that it doesn't matter where you come from, Yeah, you can be a good person, you can be a bad person, you can be a smart person, you can be a lazy person. Ya, begitu. So we need to appreciate differences and we need to respect diversity. Di Indonesia sih kayaknya nggak perlu diajarin karena dasar negara adalah apa namanya, dasar negaranya apa ya, Bu Novia? Belum ganti kan ya?
Belum,
Pancasila,
Mbak.
Prof.
Pancasila.
Pancasila.
Belum ganti, Prof.
Belum ganti. Apa itu namanya yang berbeda-beda, apa namanya, Garuda Pancasila itu?
Tunggal Ika, Pak.
Ya, Bhinneka Tunggal Ika,
Bhinneka
betul
Tunggal
sekali.
Ika.
Ya. Itu kan cara kita berpikir harus dipengaruhi oleh persepsi bahwa perbedaan itu tidak salah kok, perbedaan itu baik kok, begitu. Dan perbedaan itu membuat kita berpikir lebih, can think more clearly, lebih jernih. Pufana, when I switch to bahasa Indonesia, are you able to follow?
Yes, very much
Oh, very
so.
good.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay, very
Yep.
good. Yes. Ya. Kita harus juga sadar bahwa cara kita berpikir itu seringkali dipengaruhi dengan apa yang disebut sebagai stereotypes. Misalnya tadi ya, women are bad drivers. Waktu saya bertanya pada Ibu Wahyuni, langsung menjawab iya, begitu. Itu Ibu sudah terpengaruh dengan stereotip gitu loh, Bu. Wanita itu harus di rumah, misalnya begitu. Wanita itu nggak bisa berkarir, misalnya. Itu stereotip sebetulnya yang harus kita bantah sebetulnya. Ya, racial stereotypes. Orang Madura itu seperti ini gitu ya, orang Malaysia itu seperti ini begitu, orang Semarang itu seperti itu racial stereotypes, gender stereotypes, kemudian cultural stereotypes. Bapak Ibu yang punya rasa apa namanya, cinta tanah air yang luar biasa, itu seringkali mengatakan budaya Indonesia adalah budaya nomor 1 di dunia. Ya enggak lah begitu. Budaya itu relatif sekali ya. Apa yang baik bagi Indonesia belum tentu diakui baik oleh orang lain begitu. So cultural values are important, but it does not give you the right to say that my culture is the best culture. Masakan Semarang paling enak di dunia. Enggak lah ya. Iya ya, Bu Novi, betul ya? Makanan dari Semarang paling enak lah ya.
Tergantung makanannya apa, Pak Willy. Kalau
Ya,
lumpia paling enak Semarang.
Nah, itu kan stereotype ya kan, Bu. Gudeg paling enak dari Jogja, padahal yang enak bukan dari Jogja, misalnya begitu.
Okay.
Stereotypes ya. Remember that these stereotypes, and there are many others out there, they can influence you, they can affect the way you think, so that you can't think clearly, you can't consider other options and other alternatives. Ini bagian ini singkat saja ya. So I've just shared with you what critical thinking is all about and why critical thinking is important. And the last one is for us to appreciate, why is it not easy? Why is it so difficult for people to be more critical? I'm not saying that people are not critical. People are critical, but they can be more critical if they are willing to slow down, if they are willing to think more clearly. Okay? Yang pertama ini. Yang pertama adalah ini, masalahnya adalah pada literasi yang kurang bagus. Literasi, kemampuan membaca, kemampuan memahami itu sungguh-sungguh sangat penting. Baik bahasa lesan maupun bahasa tertulis, itu kalau tidak dikuasai dengan baik, itu akan sulit untuk kita bisa berpikir secara kritis. Makanya saya sangat mendukung gerakan literasi nasional. Itu luar biasa pentingnya. Membaca, read and read and read so that you understand what you are reading. Ya. Terus yang kedua adalah pengetahuan yang sangat minim. Itu juga sumber dari ketidakmampuan siswa untuk berpikir secara kritis. Dan yang ketiga, yang lebih penting lagi adalah perlu dipahami, critical thinking is domain specific. Tidak ada orang yang kritis untuk semua hal, tidak mungkin. Ya, critical thinking itu sangat dipengaruhi oleh pemahaman kita, pengetahuan kita di bidang tertentu, begitu. Ya, if you don't have that expert knowledge, you cannot be very critical in that area. Ini misalnya, ya. I know about English language teaching. I know about the process of language learning. Kalau saya melihat ini misalnya, saya akan mengatakan ini ngawur sekali gitu. Karena saya tahu persis bahwa proses belajar bahasa itu tidak dipengaruhi oleh apakah kita berpikir dalam bahasa Inggris, bermimpi dalam bahasa Inggris dan sebagainya. Nggak ada kaitannya itu sebetulnya. Yeah, because I know very well what the the thinking, the process of language learning. Yang kedua, tadi sudah kita lihat ya. I think we know very well that you can't do this, even if you can acquire 12 tenses in the English language. What does it mean? Buat apa begitu loh. Nah, ini untuk Mbak Yusefa mana? Mbak Yusefa apa hilang? Mbak Yusefa.
Yes, Pak Willy. I'm here.
Mbak Yusefa. Can you make sense of the visual here? For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. What is
Ya,
the
Pak Willy.
message here? Ini pesannya apa sebetulnya? Apa yang ingin disampaikan dari gambar ini?
Not everybody, or
Yes.
sometimes our class is like that, like one size fits
Exactly.
all. Yeah.
Exactly. Ini yang bisa menjawab ini adalah seorang pendidik. Orang di luar pendidikan mungkin akan kesulitan. Ini yang kita hadapi setiap hari. This is what we are dealing every day. Our students are like this. They are different. Each individual is different. Each one brings in different experiences. Each one bringing different prior knowledge and all that. And yet, we are treating them as if they are the same. Gitu. Yang ngerti soal ini adalah seseorang yang sudah punya pengalaman, punya pengetahuan yang banyak sekali mengenai dunia pendidikan. Seperti Ibu Yusefa, yang baru saja menyelesaikan studinya S3 di Ohio University, Amerika Serikat. This one, free meals for all students, good. Makan gratis. I better skip this. I think you need to think about this ya. Makan gratis baik nggak? Baik dong, makan gratis. But makan gratis plus something else begitu. Kualitas pendidikan harus diperbaiki, kualitas apa itu bahan-bahan ajar harus diperbaiki, kualitas guru harus diperbaiki, kualitas gedungnya juga harus diperbaiki. The free meals for everyone, good, but we need more than that. Okay. Nah, this one is very important. Why is critical thinking so hard? Salah satu sebabnya adalah because we think too fast. Yeah, whether you like it or not, we think very fast. Yeah, it's known as intuitive thinking. Bu Novi tadi suka pakai topi apa, Bu? Merah ya, Bu ya?
Mostly
Ya, topi merah
netizen.
topi merah itu sifatnya reaktif. So we see something and we respond very quickly. Itu topi merah. Cepat sekali. Kalau kita memakai topi yang putih, pada waktu kita menghadapi suatu masalah misalnya, kita akan slow down, kita akan berpikir lebih cermat, lebih teliti, begitu. So one of the reasons that people are not very critical is because they are relying on their intuition and they are thinking very fast. I'm not saying fast thinking is a bad thing. Fast thinking is very good. Itu baik sekali. But there are times when we have to slow down, when we have to think more carefully and more slowly so that we understand things better, so that we can make better decisions. Begitu. Okay. Ini juga cognitive biases influencing our ability to think clearly. Banyak sekali. Ada yang namanya halo effect, ada yang namanya confirmation bias. Ya. Ini contoh sebuah jurnal yang katanya diterbitkan di Kanada. Begitu orang melihat ini langsung mengatakan, wah ini pasti jurnal yang baik begitu. Tanpa kita meneliti lebih jauh, apakah benar ini jurnal yang baik. Karena kita sudah terpengaruh oleh satu Kanada, ya, yang kedua Scopus begitu. Dua hal ini membuat kita menjadi kurang cermat untuk mengantisipasi bahwa jurnal ini sebetulnya adalah jurnal abal-abal begitu. Terus yang berikutnya adalah groupthink bias. Everyone is doing it. I have to do it as well. Yeah, and that can also influence your ability to think clearly and slowly. Gender bias, and there are many other biases. You know. Yang berikutnya adalah, I think what I'm trying to say here is that I think we need to change the way we do things in the classroom. If we want to teach critical thinking, I think we should turn the table around. Instead of us asking questions all the time, I think we should provide students with more opportunities to ask questions, to ask good questions, to ask why questions, to ask what if questions, to ask how questions, to ask how do you know? Yeah. So we should not dominate the question asking activities that happen in the classroom. Last one, my last slide. Why critical thinking is hard? 3 gambar ini kira-kira mewakili kenapa sih critical thinking is very hard. 1, kurang baca. If you don't read, you don't have knowledge. If you don't have knowledge, you can't think critically. Betul ya, Bu ya? Yang kedua adalah kurang piknik, kurang dolan, jarang melihat keadaan di tempat di luar Semarang. Bu Novi, kalau orang Semarang asli nggak pernah kemana-mana, pasti pengetahuannya hanya mengenai Semarang saja. Lumpia nomor 1 Semarang, padahal sudah tidak lagi nomor 1. Nomor 1 di Jakarta, Ibu. Misalnya begitu. Kurang piknik ya. Yang ketiga adalah kurang gaul. Ya. You need social capital, istilah kerennya adalah social capital. You need friends, you need people whom you can learn from, who push you, who encourage you, who tell you that you are wrong, who tell you that you should work harder. So these are 3 things why critical thinking is not easy in Indonesia and also in many other places. Kurang baca, kurang piknik, dan kurang gaul. So Bapak Ibu sekalian, 3 things that I've shared with you. Yang pertama adalah what is critical thinking. Diulang ya. Critical thinking is thinking clearly, thinking carefully, and thinking slowly. And on top of that, you need to have a lot of knowledge. You need to have a questioning mind. Harus selalu siap untuk bertanya, mempertanyakan gitu. Terus, why critical thinking is important today? I think the answer is obvious. Yeah, if you can't think critically, I think it's difficult for you to grow, to become a better person, to make good decisions and all that. Yang ketiga, why critical thinking is hard? Because of the tendency of us thinking too fast, because our thinking is very often influenced by our perceptions, our biases, and our apa namanya itu apa tadi namanya itu yang things that we believe to be true, although it may not be true. Ibu Novia, thank you very much, and thank you for giving me
Dr.
extra
Willy.
time.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Renandia, for your insightful presentations. And we have a lot of new terms, right? For example, like sure, and then there are also some definitions, okay, about the critical thinking. So we truly appreciate your perspective. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Now, to continue our sessions, let us welcome our second speakers. Ibu Yosefa Aryani Iswandari PhD, and she collaborates with Ibu Christina Laksmita Anandari MED from Sanata Dharma University, and I intend to deliver their short biography. Okay, Ibu Yosefa Aryani Iswandari PhD is a lecturer in the English Language Education Study Program at Sanata Dharma University, Yogyakarta. Her research focuses on teacher professional development, particularly language teacher and teacher educator identity development, as well as reading writing connections. She is the co-founder of the Indonesian Extensive Reading Association, and currently she serves on the executive board of directors of the Extensive Reading Foundations. Ibu Christina Laksmita Anandari MED is a lecturer at the English Education Department of Sanata Dharma University, Yogyakarta. In 2006, she obtained her master's degree from Boston University as Kelly Stephens Memorial Scholarship Scholar. She is currently in the third year doctorate program at State University of Yogyakarta. Semoga segera lulus ya Ibu. Her research interest focuses on ELT pre-service teachers' readiness, extensive reading, and assessment. She has published a number of scientific articles and a book on educational psychology. The title of their speech is The Importance of Oracy in a Globalized ELT World. Okay, now the time is yours, Ibu Yusefa and Ibu Chris.
Okay, thank you very much, Ibu Novi. I will start and then Bu Yusefa will continue.
Yes.
So allow me to share my screen. Hold on. All right. So let's see.
So this is us going to talk about Oracy skill development, ya Bu Mita. But actually, the two of us right now are actually practicing the Oracy skill development, right? Because we are in our magang with Pak Willy, ya. Pak Willy, this is our Oracy skill practice right now. Silakan Bu Mita.
Yes, thank you. So please be patient, Pak Willy. All right, Bapak Ibu, selamat pagi, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. So I'm going to start the presentation, and then afterwards, in the second half of the presentation, Bu Yusefa will continue. All right, so this is a very interesting topic for both of us, because like what Bu Yusefa mentioned earlier, this is like walk the talk. We're talking about Oracy skill, and that's what we're trying to do right now. So hopefully we will be able to do it with flying colors. All right, now let's start with this first. I'm going to share to you the three major topics that we're going to share throughout this presentation. The first one is we're going to discuss about the Oracy skills development. And the second one is why Oracy skills is important in today's globalized ELT world. And the last part will be strategies to develop Oracy skills. Now, in the last part, we will see later on how important critical thinking is and how it can be useful for our students to increase their Oracy skills. All right, let's start with the Oracy skills development first. Now, I'm going to share to you a situation in a speaking class. And if you, right now, you can go back a few years and then think about your very first encounter with speaking classes. And some of your lecturers would say this. The first situation would be, okay, good morning. I'm in a good mood, so let's do impromptu speech. I'm going to choose 5 people, and then you can talk about anything that you want to talk about. Or in the second situation, the lecturer will say, I'm going to choose 5 people, but the topic has been discussed in the previous week, so you have 1 week to prepare. Now, in your opinion, maybe situation 1 is more feasible. It's doable because the students have practiced. Whereas situation 1, most likely it will be zong, right? It's going to be confusing because you don't really know what to say. So even though you have 2 different situations, these situations are usually found in a lot of the speaking classes, but not only in speaking classes, but also in other English classes. So the responses from the students probably would be, I'm nervous, but others would say, it's okay, I can do it. But some others are scared. Some others are dying. Some others would say, whatever will be, will be. Kisera sera. Right? So these kinds of situations always happen in a lot of the EFL classes. Now, of course, as speakers of English or English language learners and us teachers, we do hope that our students have this kind of confidence when they speak in front of a lot of people. But in reality, this appears. Yeah, some of you, I can see some of you are nodding your head because that was me, right, in the past, or probably I'm currently in this situation of frozen. Otaknya langsung beku gitu ya, freezing, nggak bisa ngomong. Semua yang sudah disiapkan tiba-tiba hilang, vanishes into thin air, right? And this is a reality that we have to acknowledge, and we have to say, yes, it is happening in a lot of our classes. So the question is, why? Why is this happening? Now, I'm going to read to you this. This is taken from Douglas, 1997, and he described the easiest way for us to understand what is going on in our brain when we speak in the native tongue. We're not talking about the L2 yet. We're talking about L1. So, according to Douglas, the speaker must monitor what she has just said to determine whether it matches her intention while she is uttering her current phrase, and simultaneously planning her next utterance and fitting that into the overall pattern of what she wants to say, and monitoring as well the reception of her performance on a listener. So this is all happening in our mind, in our brain. And still, this is talking about speaking in L1. It's already complicated, apparently. Now, can you imagine if you do this, but you have to produce another language? So I'm going to share to you in the next slide a very simple way to visualize what's going on in an L2 brain, okay? So again, this is a very simple illustration. It's definitely much more complicated than this. Imagine that our brain has a lot of compartments, or you have a lot of doors in one room. And every compartment has its own activities. And they have to, in all of these compartments, have to be used at the same time. So let me give you this illustration. For example, if we speak, right, we have to think about the gestures. Where should I look at? Should I have eye contact or should I not have eye contact? How do I stand? Where do I look? Where are my hands? Is my hair okay? Is there something wrong with my face? And then in compartment B, at the same time, we have to think about the idea organization. What should I say first? How do I open my speech? How do I explain my ideas to the listener, and which information that I need to convey? Now, here's the thing. For L2 speakers, besides doing the compartment A and B, this student or this speaker needs to think about the English language, the grammar, the pronunciation. Is it understandable? Is my pronunciation acceptable? Am I pronouncing the words correctly? Or am I using the correct structure? Is it past tense or future tense, as past perfect, and etc.? And then the next compartment would be delivery. How can I make sure that my listener is engaged? How do I converse with my listener, and how do I respond to questions? Again, Bapak Ibu, this is a very simple illustration, but you can see how complicated it is, what's going on in our brain. And because of this, it can be overwhelmed, ya. Ini overloaded. Otaknya langsung meledak gitu ya kadang-kadang, karena saking bingungnya malah nggak keluar semua omongannya. Now, I took this from the CEFR, Model of Language Use and Learning, and this is the ideal way of how to represent a language learner or user. In this part, there is a very simple description And it says that a language user or learner will use various kinds of cognitive processes, strategies, and knowledge when communicating. See how this is connected with critical thinking, with what Willie mentioned earlier on. And then the domain of use, which is the situation and the context, will determine how the speaker performs. So here you can see, we can see that it's a very complicated aspect. It's not only about the language itself, but it's about the social context. Yeah. Now, in reality, this is what's going on. Have you ever heard of foreign language anxiety? Probably yes, probably no, but I think most of us here have already understood what FLA is. And it is a very normal situation for most of the EFL learners. Even though we are speaking in English most of the time, but this foreign language anxiety often appears. And we cannot avoid this. And we cannot say, no, this is curable. Yes, it can be curable, but we have to admit that this will appear in different times, in different aspects, in different situations. It will appear, but the question is, how can we reduce the anxiety? Now, here again from the CAFR, I'm going to be very quick about this. So there are 4 overall language proficiency. You have general competences, communicative language competences, about linguistics, social linguistic, and pragmatics, and then communicative language activities and strategies. Now, we are more familiar with this part, Bapak Ibu, linguistic, social linguistic, pragmatic, and then you have reception, production, interaction. Biasanya di situ saja ketika kita belajar bahasa, bagaimana kita menerima info, bagaimana kita memproduksi, bagaimana kita berinteraksi. However, the mediation part is usually missing. And that is why critical thinking is very difficult to do, because there's no communication. There's no, seperti Pak Willy tadi bilang, kurang piknik, kurang baca, kurang komunitas.
Kurang gaul.
Kurang gaul, yes, kurang gaul. So this is what's missing in a lot of the speaking classrooms, and it's very unfortunate that this is happening. And that's why Pak Willy earlier mentioned that it's hard. Why? Because it's not put in the activities, because they focus more on the production of the speaking activity, not on how to communicate. Why do we say these words? Why should we choose these sentences? And to whom we're talking to? Those things are very minimum in a lot of the speaking classrooms. So here, mediation is needed to recognize the learner as social agent in the language learning process. Social agent. Right? So we have to be able to communicate with other people. We need to practice a lot. We need to read a lot. And then language user or learner, they need to show the social dimension of the language. And communication is not just about reception, production, and interaction. Why? Because the social factor highly influences the process and the result of the Oracy communication. So this is why a lot of the speaking classes in our country, I'm not talking about other countries because I'm not really familiar, but a lot of us here in Indonesia, a lot of our students are like robots. Like they memorize the sentences. They memorize the paragraphs, but they don't really pay attention to the emotional aspect. They don't pay attention to the connectivity with other people. Now, the next part with Bu Yusefa, she's going to explain to you why it is important to talk about this, why Oracy communication is important in globalized ELT world. Bu Yusefa, screen is yours.
Okay, thank you, Bumita. So, Pak Willy, Bumita lulus ya?
Yes, with flying colors, yes.
Okay, good. All right, so thank you, Bumita and Bapak Ibu. So the next discussion would be, why is Oracy important in today's globalized ELT world? Yeah. So Pak Willy and people say that we live now in globalization and interconnectedness, ya, Bapak Ibu. And this, of course, has influenced our ELT world. Globalization and interconnectedness have changed how ELT is approached, actually, and in the current time. So it's more technology driven as digital tools become very essential in education, and also classrooms are now also more culturally diverse. Pembelajaran tidak lagi hanya di dalam kelas, ya. So classroom and learning are more flexible now. Just turn on your digital tools and we can instantly learn and meet people from different countries and also cultures. And so ELT now is more encouraged actually to focus on effective spoken communication to prepare learners for real world interactions. So interaksi yang sesungguhnya in their daily life. And so Oracy skill development is crucial for language learners. Itu pesan dari Pak Willy kemarin, ya. So Bu Yusefa and Bumita, please talk about the how important is Oracy skill development. Okay, next Bumita. But Oracy is more than just pronunciation, fluency, grammar, and vocabulary, ya Bapak Ibu, ya. So it should be more about how effectively students use language to express ideas, engage in discussions, and adapt their communication practice, what they learn in the classroom to different contexts. Nah, ini sebenarnya bagian dari konsep deep learning, ya Bapak Ibu, ya. Like make the learning meaningful and also mindful, where they can actually berkesadaran lalu bisa menerapkan yang mereka pelajari di konteks lain di luar kelas. Nah, that's actually what learning should be. Well, of course, pronunciation and strong vocabulary are important and helpful, but we need to be aware that real world communication also requires students to be able to organize their thoughts, respond, listen actively, and also communicate actively with each other. So this means that language teaching and classroom learning should focus on meaningful communication rather than just memorizing grammar rules, seperti yang tadi Bumita katakan, or isolated vocabulary. So language learning will not be effective if students only memorize grammar rules or vocabulary without understanding their use in real life situations. Kadang mungkin Bapak Ibu dosen atau guru yang berada di sini sering mendengar, ya, kalau ada siswa komentar, kenapa sih mesti belajar ini? Atau kalau bahasa anak sekarang kan bilangnya nggak relate deh, gitu ya. Nah, this is because students do not understand the reasons why they should learn that. Apalagi nanti kalau ditambah PR banyak, ya. Lalu learning English for them then become not meaningful, mindful, and joyful, seperti yang sedang dikampanyekan sekarang, ya, dengan konsep deep learning. Nah, mungkin malah lalu jadi painful and harmful, ya, meskipun sama-sama full gitu. So students should be exposed to activities that allow them to use grammar and vocabulary in meaningful and real life contexts. So for example, let's say instead of having students memorize a list of verbs or tenses, ada berapa tenses? 16, dihafal ya, besok minggu depan kita tes. So instead of doing that, maybe we can encourage them or ask them to write a short story and then using those grammar elements in sentences. Atau daripada minta mahasiswa menghafal 300 kata bahasa Inggris dalam seminggu, Bumita and I experienced that in the past, ya. We should memorize 300 words every week and that will add up in the following week, ya Bumita, lalu 600, lalu 900, seperti itu. So instead of asking the students to memorize the words or vocabulary in isolation, we can put those words into role play maybe where they can use new words in a conversation that is relevant to their real life situation. So maybe like using the words or the new words to order food in warung misalnya begitu ya, or asking for directions. So things like that. So this approach actually helps students internalize the language more naturally karena dekat dengan kehidupan mereka ya, and use it more effectively in communication. Next, Bumita. And based on some studies, oracy skills are important for academic success. Students who have good oracy skills tend to participate actively, have better understanding of the topic and also the conversation, and they are also able to communicate with their understanding effectively. And they become more confident and fluent. And also good oracy skills will also support the students' 21st century skills, like what Pak Willy has mentioned before, skills related to critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity. And I guess those four are our topic for our webinar today. Yeah. Okay, so very nice topic. Next, Bumita. Okay, so Bapak Ibu and mahasiswa, think about the last time you had to speak in English in a real life situation. So like presentation or attending a conference or participating in a discussion. So what strategies did you use to express yourself clearly? So think about it first. Feel free to write them down in the Zoom chat or maybe open your mic to share ya. Strategi-strategi apa sih yang Bapak Ibu lakukan gitu to to prepare your speaking or to prepare your presentation, attending a conference, like to prepare your oracy skills. Mungkin ada yang mau sharing atau bisa diketik di dalam chat gitu ya. Oke. Ada yang mau sharing secara langsung?
Silahkan, mungkin ada mahasiswa di sini.
Oke,
We have
ada yang angkat
master
tangan, Bu
degree students.
Novia.
Oh ya, oke, silakan.
Ya, Pedro, and he is
Pedro,
my
oke.
student.
Oh,
He's my
oke.
student. Okay.
Ya,
Silakan,
go
Pedro.
ahead, Pedro.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
But my name is Pedro, and I am from Sanata Dharma University. I'm still in semester 2 in Sanata Dharma, so I'm new here. I'm quite nervous, to be sure, but I'm trying to be my best today. So I remember a few months ago, we have some intercultural activities that we will having a discussion, and then I have to accompany some students that are coming from Australia to come to study in Indonesia. So there are about 18 students, 16 students from Australia, and I have to accompany one of them to become their student buddies. So before I going to speak with them, first of all, the some strategies that I try to develop for my oracy skills is the first one is I read aloud. There is some short stories, and then I try to read aloud the short stories, and then I try to read aloud in front of the mirror so that I can try to speak with myself, and then I imagine that in that mirror that is the person which is different, like it is other side of myself, so that I can make like an imaginative discussion. So that is my strategies. And then the second strategies is by listening, because I learned that some Australian, they are very fast when they are speaking. So I try to listening in every day when I woke up, and I usually watching news from Al Jazeera or CNBC and some support. I try to listen in that in order to increasing my listening skills. Maybe that's all my simple strategy to develop my horse skills, Mrs. Nupal. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Pedro. All right. So maybe you can continue first.
Can I give advice? Can I give
Sure.
give some advice to Pedro? Pedro,
Sure,
I think
Pak Willy.
you did the
Yes,
right
thank
thing, practicing to listen to, normal speech. I think that's a good thing so that you can understand when people speak very fast. The other thing, it's a very simple strategy, is for you to tell them to speak slowly.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
because
Okay.
when people speak too fast, I think that simply means that they don't know how to communicate with people like us, for which English is not our first language. So that is pretty much well aligned with what Mita and Josefa are saying about communication skills. It's a two-way thing. If they're speaking too fast, tell them, hey, slow down, or I won't buy you lunch. Tell them that.
Okay, thank you very much for Willy.
All right, thank you so much, Pak Willy, and thank you, Pedro, for sharing the strategies, and those are great strategies. Nah, ini tadi contoh dari mahasiswa ya, Bapak Ibu. I'm so happy to know that students actually also try to find their own strategies to improve their Oracy skills ya. Okay, now what about in our own classrooms, Bapak Ibu? What strategies can we use to help our students develop their Oracy skills? Well, there are many strategies, and I'm sure that you all have implemented great strategies for your students, yeah. But I personally believe that one important approach is to make Oracy activities a regular part of the lessons. So, untuk memberi exposure dan praktis yang banyak untuk para siswa. Jadi tadi Pak Willy juga berpesan, try not to ask a lot of questions, but give the students time and also space for them to ask questions and also to practice speaking more, yeah. Okay, and as Bumita mentioned before, that language learners often experience foreign language anxiety, which is normal, right? As Pedro said before in the beginning of the sharing, he mentioned that I'm very nervous actually, and that's very normal, yeah. And that's what happened in EFL settings or in our context, yeah. So regular practice helps them become more accustomed to speaking, feel more comfortable, and eventually they become more confident and can reduce their anxiety. Nah, strateginya bisa bermacam-macam ya. So students can practice through conversations, and to create more meaningful conversation, a teacher can use open-ended questions to encourage students to think critically, yeah, and also engage in deeper discussions. So instead of simple yes or no answers, atau tadi yang Pak Willy mengatakan thin questions, lalu dijawab dengan simple yes or no only, open-ended questions encourage students to elaborate and think critically. However, it is equally important actually to frame the open-ended questions or maybe discussion prompts in a way that allows students to make meaningful connections and feel personally engaged in the conversation. Sehingga bisa lebih make sense untuk siswa ya, kalau misalnya prompts atau pertanyaannya itu yang familiar atau yang bisa relate dengan kehidupan mereka. Ya, Bumita, maybe we can show the video just shortly. And let's watch the video probably for about 50 seconds to 1 minute, Bapak Ibu.
Put your hand up if someone in your family comes from somewhere else in the world. Put your hand up if someone in your family comes from somewhere else in the world and has come to live in London. Could you turn to the person next to you and have a discussion about this talking point?
I think Stratford is a better place to live because they're not against anyone and it's... Well, can I just clarify you? What do you mean by like against? Like
Oracy is the keystone to everything that happens in the curriculum. There are such high expectations for talk, and it does really make a difference in the children how articulate and how confident they are.
The vision of School 21 is to prepare young people for the world that they're going to go into in the 21st century. I think one of the biggest barriers to the students we serve really getting on in life is lack of good communication skills. We need to elevate speaking to the same level as reading and writing.
So we have a vote. What makes me enjoy talking the most is that everybody's listening to you and you're like part of the world and you feel respected and important. When I'm talking, they're listening what I'm saying, and sometimes they give me questions, or maybe I give them questions.
Every child within this school is expected to speak in every lesson, in every opportunity throughout their school day, and we try and create lots of different contexts for young people to hone their skills as speakers.
Right, so what I want us to do now is to have a discussion about different kinds of culture, and I want us to discuss this. Some cultures are better than others.
I think every teacher, if you say to them, do you
Okay,
talk in your classroom?
you can stop, Bhumita. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so in the video, we can actually learn and see that the teacher gave a lot of opportunities for students to have communication, to have conversation, yeah? Okay. And that's actually a very beautiful environment, yeah, and situation. Okay, so in the video, the teacher also starts the Oracy activity by having a prompt that is connected to the student's personal life, yeah. And when students feel that the question or prompt is familiar or relevant to them, they find it easier to respond and feel more confident participating in conversation, yeah. Okay, and another strategy is inviting students for structured discussions like book talk or circle time to help them practice elements of critical thinking, like analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating information. And those have been mentioned by Pak Willy earlier, yeah, and those are actually elements of critical thinking. Okay, and we can also create activities that encourage collaboration like group projects, presentations, simulations, role plays, things like that. And this kind of activities reflect real-life communication yang memang sering terjadi dan dijumpai sehari-hari oleh para siswa, ya Bapak Ibu. Okay, next Bhumita. And another strategy, especially for beginner language learners, could be using sentence stamps and incorporating available classroom resources. Maybe you can go to the next slide, Bhumita. Okay, so sentence stamps. Oh, okay, Bhumita is gone, Pak Willy. Okay, Bhumita bolos. Okay, let's just wait. Let me see. Let me
Yeah, I
try
think
to
she lost the
share.
connection.
Yeah. Let me try to share my PowerPoint. We're sorry, Bapak Ibu. Hold on.
Okay, take your time, Ibu Josefa. Yeah.
Sure, sure.
For those who would like to ask questions, so you can, what is it, write in the chat box, okay?
Mm-hmm.
While Bu Josefa is trying to find the PPT slide. Just take your time, your Ibu Josefa.
Yeah, sure, Ibu. Oh, wait a minute. Can you see the slides, Bapak Ibu?
Yes, do a slideshow.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it clear enough?
Yes.
Yes,
Let
Bu
me just-
Josefa.
Click on the slideshow button.
Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
Okay. Okay, thank you, thank you. So another strategies, especially for beginner language learners, could be using sentence stems. So this is what I mean by sentence stems here, just like what you see in the image here, yeah. And also incorporating available classroom resources. So sentence stems are partially completed sentences that help students structure their responses, yeah. So basically, it helps the students, especially for those beginner students, to be more ready and to feel more safe karena ada bantuan kata-kata atau ekspresi atau phrases that they can use to participate in the conversation, gitu ya, Bapak Ibu. And also using available classroom resources can also help and motivate the students to participate actively because the things around the classroom are very familiar for the students, yeah. Okay. The next one. Okay. But one thing, Bapak, Ibu, and teman-teman mahasiswa ya, whatever strategy that you use, for me, I think it's very important for us to always remember and to always connect the learning to your students' real life, yeah. Because when lessons relate to their experiences, students find learning more engaging and meaningful and enjoyable. And using real world scenarios, authentic materials, and relatable interactions help motivate students to participate actively. And that's actually when the Oracy skills are developed. Okay, is Bumita back? Not yet. Bu Novia, do you see whether Bumita is back?
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet. Okay, so actually this is Bumita's part, but okay, let me see. Okay, so actually this is Bumita part, but I will just go quickly for the conclusion. So to conclude our session, first we need to consider the reality check, yeah. So it is a fact that EFL learners face foreign language anxiety throughout their learning process. And expecting EFL learners to have strong Oracy skills without providing sufficient Oracy practice will likely result in learning anxiety. Yeah. So again, the key words actually is again to put the Oracy skill practice into like daily activity in the classroom or in your lesson. And practicing Oracy skills through connecting the learner's lived experiences can enhance the learner's joy of learning. Yeah. So I think our topic today, our webinar topic today actually is supporting the new government's deep learning implementation, Pak Willy. So we have meaningful, mindful, and joyful learning. So hopefully after this webinar, we all can go back to our classroom and help students to really learn and feel meaningful, joyful, and mindful, yeah, not painful and harmful in the classroom, yeah. Okay. All right. I think that's it for our session. Bu Novia, Pak Willy, and everybody, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much Ibu Yusefa and Ibu Christina Laksmita. Mungkin tadi sinyal ya, karena sinyalnya
I think her
Hi,
laptop
I'm
is
sorry.
restarting.
Oh, okay.
My laptop
That's
just
okay.
restarted on its own, so I don't know why.
Okay,
I
that's okay.
apologize, Buyus.
So thank you very much Ibu Laksmita and Ibu Yusefa for the very profound presentations, and you both give us a very insightful perspective regarding the Oracy skills development and also strategies. And you also have mentioned about promoting the deep learning, yeah, which has meaningful, mindful, and enjoyable learning that can be learned not only in the classroom but also outside of the classroom. Okay, so now we are going to invite our next speakers, Madam Çiğdem Fidan, PhD from Turkey, already here. Çiğdem, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here, Çiğdem. Yes, you pronounce it
Okay.
correctly.
All right, Chikdam.
Yes,
All right,
exactly.
yes, okay. So how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you all? So good morning, and thank you for hosting me. I especially want to thank to my friend Puji for inviting me for this brilliant session. I'm listening since morning. It's 6 a.m. here in Turkey.
Oh,
So
okay, I see.
yeah, very informative for me. So thank you so much.
All right, so thank you for your attendance in this webinar. So I would like to read Madam Chikdam short biography. Chikdam Fidan received her PhD from the University of Rochester in New York in the field of teaching and curriculum, or TESOL. So your colleague of Prof. Puji, yeah. She has taught English as a foreign language at the K-12 and higher education levels in various countries. Dr. Fidan currently works as a national education expert at the Ministry of National Education as an adjunct faculty in the Department of Foreign Languages at the Middle East Technical University in Turkey. She is an advocate of inclusive foreign language education and educates prospective teachers on making foreign languages accessible, especially for students with disabilities. So the title of her speech today is Fostering Collaborative Approaches to Promote Inclusivity in English Language Teaching Classrooms. So now the time is yours, Madam Chikdam, PhD. Yes.
Thank you so much, Novia. And
Yes.
yeah, hi again. So I'm Chidam, and I think my experience will be really interesting in terms of collaboration, bringing collaboration among the ministry and the university, because I'm working for Ministry of Education in Turkey with the minister here, and also I work at a university. I both train teachers and train prospective teachers, educate them in terms of creating inclusive platforms in the ELT classrooms. So, but I mostly bring, special education and ELT together. So in my presentation today, I'm going to mention about, inclusive education, inclusive English language education, and the case of Turkey about this context, this topic, and what do ELT teachers in Turkey say about inclusive English language teaching, and how can we achieve English language teaching for all students in Turkey, thanks to the collaboration. So before starting my presentation, I want to show this visualization for you to show what inclusion is. So as you see in these bubbles, inclusion is just really including the students in the classroom environment, not exclude them, not segregate them, not integrate them, definitely not assimilate them, but really, accepting them as they are and including them into the classroom context. The main goal is to create a culture of belonging, to let them feel like they belong to the classroom context. And what is inclusive education? So, as you all know, UNESCO's 4A framework and United Nations SDG 4, Sustainable Development Goal number 4, is all related to achieve inclusive education, inclusivity, equity in education platforms. So UNESCO's 4A framework is all about, providing access, availability, acceptability, and adaptability in the education field. And United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 4, as you know, is about quality education. And the goal is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all students. So the ultimate goal should be to provide, to promote, and to let the social justice happen not only in education but also outside the education in the social context. So to achieve social justice, inclusive education is a required field that we should invest in through collaboration. So we all know that English is the global language, right? So, and we are accessing, information, technology, knowledge, everything, almost everything through English in the globalized world. And it is also a linguistic capital, right? It's a linguistic tool that help us to access different forms of capital, as Bourdieu says, like linguistic capital, cultural capital, because thanks to English, we can share our knowledge, as in the case of this webinar, right? And social capital, we can, meet with different people. And economic capital, this is why I am earning my money, getting my salary, and thanks to the English as a linguistic capital. So, which is why English is really important to teach and to make it accessible for all students, including the students with disabilities, which is often an ignored, a subject in the field of ELT. In addition to all this, learning English as a foreign language is a linguistic human right. So we most of the time talk about education rights, human rights, but not always about, linguistic human rights, which is the right to use one's own language or the other languages of their choice. This is also about, providing freedom for all individuals to let them learn any languages they want. So linguistic human rights, of course, necessary for social justice, but this is not enough. So there are also other components that we have to think to achieve linguistic human rights for all. Collaboration, for example, and critical thinking are two things that we should consider to achieve and promote linguistic human rights in education in the field of ELT especially. So what is inclusive ELT? So, as you all know, in the globalized world, we have students coming from various backgrounds, the students running away from war, traumatized children, students with disabilities, students coming from various, religious backgrounds, having different genders, coming from different linguistic backgrounds, minority, groups. We have really different students in ELT classrooms. So the goal is to respond to the learning needs, English language learning needs of each student. And yeah. So as you see in this picture, ELT, the classroom of ELT is not only, becomes of colors, it's a spectrum of colors. So even if we have, for example, students coming from a different, cultural background, we should be aware that students may have also different other needs. Like, for example, if that students also have a disability, we should also consider this need in teaching that student English as a foreign language. So what about disabilities then? So we always, as people, talk about observable disabilities. When I say disability, probably you just remembered and imagined deaf individuals, blind individuals, right? But there are really disabilities on a spectrum, and there are really different kinds of disabilities, including non-observable, or in other term, soft disabilities, like, for example, dyslexia, dysgraphia. So dyslexia, for example, means that this disability which makes reading challenging for the students, or dyscalculia, which makes the mathematical skill challenging for the students. So there are also non-observable disabilities that we should consider. These days, in the social context, we always talk about ADHD, autism as non-observable disabilities, but really little known for this. And as ELT teachers, we really know a little how to teach English as a foreign language to those kids. And here critical thinking has a role, because diagnosing those kids can be subjectively manipulated by racial segregation to hide racial and economic inequalities. I did my PhD in the United States, and there I learned that diagnosing students with disabilities is not always, objective. This is also the case in Turkey. For example, in the US, United States, Black kids most of the time, or the immigrant kids most of the time, are labeled as students with disabilities, so that they should be, put away a little bit away from the, mainstream education. And this is also the case in Turkey as well. That's why as ELT teachers, if you have a diagnosed child in your classroom, you should really ask critically if this is, real or not. And that's why collaboration plays a role. There, you should collaborate with parents, school counselor, and with, medical personnel if required. And the social model of disability says labeling any disability is subjective because of society's attribution to normality and abnormality. There are two different types of models identifying a disability, a medical model and a social model. Medical model completely says that disability is a kind of, sickness that needs to be cured. So medical personnel has a role here. But the social model says that students with disabilities bring a culture to the classroom. So they are also human beings. For example, in the case of deaf students, so social model accepts sign language as part of the language of those, students. So that's why as ELT teachers, we should really ask this question, what is normal? Okay, we are always talking about students coming from different backgrounds, linguistic, cultural backgrounds. But when it comes to the students with disabilities, we should really ask, what am I, thinking about those, students with disabilities? Am I, judgmental? Am I pitying? Am I subjective? What do I know about disability? Do I have a disability ideology of disability based on the medical model or social model? We should ask those critical questions to learn more about our students in the classroom, so that we can arrange our learning teaching strategies according to the English language learning needs of those specific students. What about the case of Turkey?
I'm sorry, sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry, Chikdam. 3 more minutes. I'll give you time.
Oh, okay. 3 more minutes.
Yeah. I'm sorry for that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm hurrying then.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
what does? Yeah, you're welcome. What does the case of Turkey reveal about inclusive ELT education? So there are more than 10 million students, studying at the K-12 level in Turkey. And the Constitution of Turkey says that no one shall be deprived of education. And the fundamental law of education says that education is the right and should be accessible for all students. But when it comes to, students with disabilities, it says that, students with disabilities may be exempted from foreign language education classes. So here there is an obvious, a violation of education and linguistic human rights. And what about ELT teachers say? So as I said, I'm collaborating with both teachers and prospective teachers. So for this session, I asked ELT teachers about their experiences in teaching students with disabilities. So there are a few teachers responding to the question that they know about a little bit about linguistic human rights, and they believe that students with disabilities have the right to, learn English. And many of them believe that English language education is an education right, linguistic right, and is required linguistic tool to learn in the global world. And few of them and on the other hand, many of them said that they do not know how to teach students with disabilities, okay? And many of them think that they do not know how to make English accessible for those students because they didn't learn anything at the education faculties. And they believe that this will increase their workload at work, and little believe that students can learn, English as a foreign language, students with disabilities. And many of them, think that students with disabilities negatively, the role of students with disabilities negatively influence the classroom context, the atmosphere of the context. And they do not have the ability to learn, English as a foreign language, and shouldn't be in the mainstream classrooms. And they found teaching English to those students challenging and difficult. And many of them thought that they cannot receive any, training, any support to be able to teach to students with disabilities. So yeah, they talked about the, difficulties in teaching, as they do not have any experience and they didn't learn anything about how to approach to those kids and to their parents, and how to collaborate with school administrator in terms of supporting students with disabilities in the field of ELT. So how can government and education faculties collaborate for, to support inclusive ELT for all students in Turkey and also in other countries? So we need more training. At the faculties of education, there should be courses specifically for, focusing on special education and to make ELT accessible not only for linguistic and cultural differences, but also for students with disabilities. And as you see, teachers also responded to this question saying that they need more training and education on this topic. As a government, as policymakers, we also should be aware of, attitudinal barriers toward, disabilities, differences, physical barriers in the school, in the classrooms, about the curriculum, if curriculum is appropriate for those students, accessible for those students or not, as aligning with the UNESCO's 4A framework. And we should be aware of the untrained ELT teachers, and funding, of course, is an important point here. And we should collaborate and bring different organizations, stakeholders together to promote ELT education for all students in this field. There are many, many tools to be used for both teachers, teacher educators, and policymakers to promote inclusiveness in ELT. These are some of them. The technology, so critical thinking, inquiry-based approach, and of course, universal design for learning. So carrying universal design for learning in the classroom context, in policy and curriculum and material, classroom material, is always helpful. And these are two examples that my prospective teachers, prospective teachers, students, produced. These posters reflect how they created inclusivity, how they reflected inclusivity in their, posters. The first one is designed for deaf students. Here, as you see, there are tons of, visualization, and through visualization, the prospective teachers thought that they can teach English to these students who are deaf. And the second one is prepared for students with dysgraphia. So that means that students cannot write, have difficulty in writing. So then on this poster, you see that the student teachers bring different kinds of writing styles to make the writing more accessible for students with dysgraphia. Just one quote I'm going to say, and I'm going to done with the presentation. Just this one I really love, and as a teacher, I believe that we all should hear. So it says that we are not the sources of problems. We are the sources that are needed to solve them. We are not expenses. We are investments. Literally, if we as ELT teachers can invest in students with disabilities, things will really change. And on the other way, as ELT teachers, instead of asking, can I help you question to our students to make ELT accessible for them, we should be asking, how can I help, so that we can learn their actual learning needs in this process. So I know that it was really quick, but thank you so much for, listening to me. So you can email me anytime, and you can also, if you're curious about this subject more, you can read my articles published, and you can also take my contact number from your colleague Puji. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, sister. Okay, thank you, Chikdam. It's a very interesting, profound, and insightful presentations having the topic about the inclusivity education, inclusive ELT teaching in a global world, especially in Turkey. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we go to the next presentation, that is Prof. Puji Astuti. Okay, yeah, Prof. Puji. Okay, I would like to read her short biography. Prof. Puji Astuti, PhD, is a professor of cooperative learning in ELT at the Faculty of Languages and Arts, Universitas Negeri Semarang. She earned her PhD degree in education with a specification in teaching curriculum and change from the University of Rochester Warner School of Education and Human Development, New York, USA, through Fulbright Dicty Scholarship. Her research areas include active learning, specifically cooperative learning in ELT, digital literacies, and identity construction. So the title of her speech is Sopo Sing Nandur Bakal Ngunduh, Cultivating Collaboration Skills in ELT Through Active Learning. Now the stage is yours, Prof. Puji.
Thank you, Dr. Novia Trisanti. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, it's clear enough.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm grateful to you all, my fellow panelists, Dr. Sri Wahyuni, the head of our master's program here at Universitas Negeri Semarang, for making this webinar possible. Fellow academics, researchers, students, ladies and gentlemen. As seen here, the title of my presentation is Sopo Sing Nandur Bakal Ngunduh, Cultivating Collaboration Skills in ELT Through Active Learning. The main title is a Japanese saying that means whoever plants will harvest. And with that in mind, the message of the subtitle is clear. That is, if we are to have students with collaboration skills, and thus we take part in shaping the construction of citizens with strong collaboration skills, we have to start planting and growing that. And one of the ways is by implementing active learning. A side note, ladies and gentlemen, throughout my talk, Ms. Fatwa, our master student, fast track program, is helping me with the slide display. Thank you, Ms. Fatwa. Next, please. Back to the saying, Sopo Sing Nandur Bakal Ngunduh. In retrospect, I walk the talk. What you see here, Ibu Bapak, ladies and gentlemen, is pohon salam, bay leaf tree that my husband and I planted years ago. It grows so well, and we use the leaves a lot for cooking in the house. They are nutritious, people say. We also let our neighbors to have some whenever they need. Next. I think I'm gonna skip the housekeeping here because I think every point is understood. Next slide, Ms. Watwa. So there is no behind the scene talk between Pak Willy and me about contents and organization of the speech. But here you are, like Pak Willy did, I am using questions to organize my talk. And I guess this is an indication that I have a questioning mind. And in my speech, I will address these 7 questions. Altogether, the answers will support my advocate for the implementation of active learning, especially cooperative learning, or CL in short, for cultivating English learners' 21st century learning skills, especially collaboration. Let's begin with question number 1, Ms. Fatwa. In Indonesian context, question number 1, next slide. In Indonesian context, in addition to students acquiring conceptual knowledge, procedural knowledge, and skills of communicating in the language, the other goal of ELT is for students to have the 21st century learning skills, including collaboration, and it's stated in the learning outcomes document for the emancipated curriculum. So through ELT, we want to have learners and citizens who have strong collaboration skills. Next slide. Let's move on to the next question, the second one. What do we want to grow? And my answer for this question is clear: collaboration and cooperation. In some contexts, I know that the words collaboration and cooperation are used interchangeably. However, since I study cooperative learning closely, please allow me to make a distinction between the two. The distinction stems from the differences between collaborative learning and cooperative learning. In collaboration, individual accountability is usually not present. So individual students are not required to make public performances or presentations and engage in peer interaction prior to and or before these performances. We can think of gotong royong or mutual assistance in Indonesian context for collaboration here. In contrast, ladies and gentlemen, individual students' public performances and their interaction with peers prior to and or before these performances are required. Individuals' public performances and peer interaction are required in cooperation. And obviously, as we heard from Bu Yusefa and Bu Mita, such activities are supportive of Oracy skills development. It's supportive of second language acquisition and learning in general. Why? Because these activities mean the availability of opportunities for students to use the target language, English. So during peer interaction, students prepare themselves for the next performance. Thus, it lessens their anxiety. Ibu Bapak, ladies and gentlemen, again, since I study CL closely, I would use the term cooperation onwards. And I would hold on to the stance that collaboration serves as the foundation for cooperation to happen. So in my view, cooperation is the next level of collaboration. Next slide. So with that said, that cooperation is the next level of collaboration, my answer to this question is very clear. What do we need to grow? We need to grow cooperation skills. And as you can see here, we see that cooperation skills comprises of these skills with a disclaimer, Ibu Bapak, that the list here is minimal. So these skills are needed for and developed by CL. That means if we want to implement CL effectively and sustainably, students should have these skills. And if we want to have students with strong cooperation skills, CL can help us achieve that. Next. The next question is this one. As you can see, how do we nurture cooperation skills? My answer will be, we nurture them with teacher agency. Pak Willy and I believe Bu Yusefa and Bu Mita talked about the importance of having quality teachers, and I am with them. Quality teachers are those with agency. So as you can see here, there are keywords in understanding teacher agency: capacity, meaningful actions, meaningful practices, transformation, educational system, and quality education, as well as one that was reminded by Dr. Chidam, social justice in our society. So I believe that when practitioners of cooperative learning have the agency, they would implement cooperative learning in such a way that they would go ahead regardless of challenges in front of them. Next slide. Okay, how do we know that cooperation skills grow well? So here's my answer. We need to observe and evaluate them. So when CL principles are at play, when CL principles manifest in our implementation of CL, as you can see here, individual accountability, equal participation, positive interdependence, and simultaneous interaction, when they materialize or when they manifest in our CL implementation, we are confident that we will have learners with strong cooperation skills. We are confident that our instruction will go to the attainment of citizens with strong cooperation skills. Next. So this is a reflective question that I have. Have you done all that is needed to grow cooperation skills? I believe that the answer is yes. Yes, I have. I conducted research on the implementation of CL in EFL classrooms and published the reports. And with the intention to plan cooperation skills in teacher education, I introduced CL to pre-service teachers, implement the method in my courses, documented how it can be used for the teaching of language skills, and make sure that the videos are available for public. My CL videos are available on YouTube. To in-service teachers, I support their CL implementation by integrating the method in the design of textbook, English textbook. As displayed here, it's called English for Change. It's used nationwide for grade 11. I guarantee that when teachers use this textbook, they are guided in their implementation of CL. And through community engagement program, Ibu Bapak, I run teacher professional learning on CL that involved English teachers from different provinces in Indonesia. Next slide. Still with the reflective question, have we done all that is needed? When I zoom in on the context that surround my practices, the view that I see is not as pleasing, unfortunately. For example, when I take a closer look at the recent process standard document, the document of process standard that is supposed to guide the teaching and learning process at our schools, as you can see here, there is no single sentence that is bold enough advocating for the implementation of active learning. Instead, as you can see here, Ibu Bapak, teachers are just asked to encourage students to interact and be active in their learning. So my concern is if thousands of studies say that active learning optimizes learning, why doesn't the standard demand that teachers implement the method, implement active learning pedagogies? My research also shows that teachers display yet to develop understanding of CL, that they have nuanced understanding of CL, resulting in tensions and ineffectiveness in its implementation. The picture is also not pleasing to see when it comes to in-service teacher certification. regardless of the intensive program they have followed, banking model of education or teacher-centered instruction is still prevalent. And this video is the evidence, Ibu Bapak. Ms. Fatwa, please play the video for a minute.
Yes, Prof. I'm trying to share screen the video.
I think you can just click on the photo over there and it will play.
Yeah, is it visible already?
Yeah, it is.
Text. Recontext is text to retell past event or someone's experience. Ya, jadi recontext adalah teks yang menjelaskan tentang kejadian yang sudah berlalu atau pengalaman seseorang. Ya. It is related to simple past tense, berhubungan dengan simple past tense karena menggunakan verb doer, ya, menggunakan simple past tense. Okay, so what is the social function or the purpose of recontext? Jadi apa sih tujuan atau fungsi sosial recontext? It is to retell past event or someone's experience. I'm sure all of you had experience, ya. Saya yakin semuanya kalian pasti mempunyai pengalaman, right? Okay. And then for the generic structure of recontext, there are 3 parts of generic structure. Ada 3 bagian. Yang pertama, the first is orientation. Ya, tulisannya
All right,
orient.
Ms. Fatwa, I think you can just stop right there, considering the time. Thank you. Ibu Bapak, that's what I mean by a picture that is not pleasing to see. We see a banking model of education or teacher-centered instruction in ELT. So yeah, that's the picture we see. Next slide, Ms. Fatwa. Ladies and gentlemen, to put in an illustration, as we see here, so this is where we are right now in our venture for constructing learners and Indonesian citizens with strong cooperation skills. We have a lot to do to attain the goal, and it's a collective work for sure. You see that the picture in the reality box is, the tree in the reality box is not dying, it's growing. It's just that the growth is not as what we expect. Next slide. So ladies and gentlemen, where do we go from here? We have to promote an alignment. That's what I believe. We should make sure that CL is not only taught, but also practiced in teacher education. And it's not done by one single individual teacher educator, but it should be done collectively. And when that happens, we can expect that CL is implemented at our schools. And supported by school leadership, professional development, and professional learning programs, I believe that we will see the alignment. And I have a deep conviction that the alignment will be stronger with the help of strong research and rich discussion among educators like what we are having today. Next. Here's the references that I use in my presentation today. The last slide. Ibu Bapak, let's be optimistic because supposing nandur bakal ngunduh, whoever plants will harvest. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Fatwa. Back to Dr. Novia Trisanti.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Very profound presentations. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu, adik-adik mahasiswa, So let's give a big applause to our four speakers today. Oke, silahkan memberi emoticon applause. Okay. All right. So thank you to all our keynote speakers today for their insightful and profound presentations. Now we will move on to the question and answer sessions for about 5 minutes. Okay, we have already received on several questions from our participants. Okay. Uh, okay, let's check. So the first questions is delivered to Dr. Willy. Are you still here, Dr. Willy?
He is.
Bapak Willy Nandia. All right.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
here.
Okay. There is a question from Arum Istiqomah. Yeah. She asked questions about the reliable source and what is it? Invite students to find the good source of information. If the journal in Canada has been published and rated in the Scopus, you mentioned it is abal and we have to be very careful. Would you tell us the education, what is it? As the educator, what is the best source for us to read and get information? How to recognize the good article in journal? And the
Yes,
second
good question. Yes,
okay.
my answer to that is ask Ibu Puji. Ask her if a journal is a good journal or a bad journal. I think she will be able to help you with that. Scopus is no guarantee that a journal is credible. Scopus is a company whose job is to just put together information, summary of information from a vast range of journals. Scopus does not tell you whether a journal is of high quality or of a low quality. No. And that particular journal was that I mentioned was very interesting. And people, people got scammed actually by publishing in that journal simply because they are not thinking, because they are looking at the word Canada and thinking that the journal was published in Canada. Is not. It's just a word Canada that was used by the publisher. And number two, it was included in Scopus, but then subsequent to that, it was removed from Scopus when people began to complain about the quality of the journal. Eventually, Scopus took action and got that journal delisted. Again, what I'm trying to say here is I think you need to ask around, you need to have a lot of knowledge that will help you understand what a good journal is like. If you don't have that information, then remember the word sure. If you don't understand, ask people, ask Ibu Puji, ask Ibu Wahyuni for guidance, for information about what is a good journal and what is a bad journal. Yeah, Ibu Novia.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Willy. Yeah. I think what is it? Arum ya tadi yang bertanya. So Arum
Mana
also
Arum?
should
Arum?
consider again. Yeah.
Arum, can I see you, Arum? Are you here
Arum,
with
maybe
us?
you make your camera on, okay, and maybe you can say
Arum,
hello
are you
to.
here? Arum, yes, Arum, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you have to also to consider the critical thinking as what already mentioned by Dr. Willy.
I think so, yeah. It's first impression can be right, can be wrong. So the example I give you is that, hey, this is Scopus, first impression. Oh, Scopus is good, right? And number two, Canada. Oh, Canada is good. Another first impression. But both impressions are wrong, actually.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very important for you to always check and double check and triple check. Yeah. If you're still not very sure, yes, if you're still not very sure, ask Bu Novia, ask Bu Mita, ask Ibu Puji, or ask me. If you know my WhatsApp number, you can send me a text message, Arum.
Yeah, so that is why the students have to think clearly, carefully, and
Yes.
slowly to make decisions.
I
Right.
think
Thank
so,
you very much,
yes.
Dr. Willy. Yeah,
the second question is still from Arum about how to assess the students in inclusive education in ELT teaching. While teacher has limited time to do evaluation because they have to continue the teaching process, and this is delivered to Chikdam. Okay, are you still here, Madam Chikdam?
It has been answered by Dr. Chikdam, Ibu.
Oh, okay, already answered. So have you got the answers from Madam Chikdam, yeah?
From the chat.
Okay, now we're going to go to the next questions about, okay. Okay. From Yumna. Okay. Yumna is asking about, Yumna, are you here? Yumna?
Yes, yes, Miss
Okay, you
Novia.
can directly ask questions. You can directly ask questions to, your questions is delivered to.
I have 3 questions for Bu Puji, Bu Yusefa, and also Mr. Willie, but Mr. Willie has answered it directly to me, direct message. So
Okay.
yeah,
So you can deliver directly questions to Bu Puji and Bu Yusefa.
yes, thank you so much for the chance, Bu Novia. My name is Nabil Yumna Istiadi. I am a master student at UNES. I truly appreciate the insightful and also the engaging presentation for all of the speaker. It was incredibly valuable. Well, I have a question regarding to Bu Yusefa presentation about Oracy skill development. So bringing up what you mentioned in your slide before, students often focus heavily on memorization, trying to remember hundreds of vocabulary and words. But how do you think the principle of behaviorism, such as repetition and reinforcement, influence the effectiveness of memorization in learning? What if forcing ourselves or our student to memorize, like in vocabulary learning, actually leads to better retention? And how might this challenge the idea that deeper understanding is always more effective than rote memorization? Do you think the conventional teaching method is still effective today? And considering that we now emphasize deep learning where classroom activities should be meaningful, mindful, and also joyful. And also for Bu Puji, I would like to ask you a question regarding the active learning. So how do you think cooperative learning enhance active learning compared to individual study? What if students rely too much on their peers, and how might this impact their ability to think independently and develop their critical problem solving skills? I think that's all of my question. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Wassalamualaikum.
okay. Ibu Yusefa, are you still there? Atau mungkin Ibu Christina Laksmita, are you still there?
Yes. Bu Novia, Bu Yusefa is on her way to the campus, so I can answer that for you. Is
Yes,
that
thank you.
okay?
Yes, that's okay. That's very
Yes,
okay.
okay. All right, but Nabila, thank you so much for the question. It's very interesting and very thoughtful. What Bu Yusef mentioned earlier about vocabulary and rote memorization, the problem that we had in that experience was that memorization was the only source of learning in the vocabulary class. There were no other strategies, learning strategies that were used in the class. So it's always, every single week, we have to memorize a lot of vocabularies, and then it was tested on every week. So to this day, we have to understand that we're dealing with different generations. It was okay. Memorization was okay for my generation. I'm Generation X. Saya Gen X, yeah. So I experienced a lot of memorization activities since elementary school. Ya, dari SD, SMP, SMA sudah terbiasa seperti itu. So behaviorism for me was not a major problem, and because it was not really something that I'm not comfortable with. However, if we're dealing with alpha generation right now, alpha generation itu sungguh luar biasa unik ya. Saya punya 2 anak cowok dan mereka gen alpha semua. Jadi sungguh puyeng Kalau disuruh memorization saja, it's not going to work because they have different ways of learning. They have different ways of analyzing situations. But it doesn't mean that behaviorism is not acceptable. No, behaviorism is still okay at some point, but the challenge is how can we navigate and make it into a harmony between memorization, deep learning, and doing critical thinking. It's not about which one is the best, but it's more on how we harmonize these approaches to make sure that our students can learn better with their by understanding their characters and personality, because each generation is different. So I hope that answers your question, but Nabila, is that if your preference is memorization, then go for it. But don't make it into as the only way for learning. Does that answer your question, Mbak Nabila?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, to Christina Laksmita for the
Can I
answer.
just add one point to what
Yes.
Mita has already explained to you? Repetition is good. I mean, when we talk about behaviorism, basically we are looking at repetition. The more repetition you do, the better you become. I think there's some truth in it. But I think we need to make a distinction between mindless repetition. Mindless tuh gak mikir gitu loh. Mindless pokoknya apal begitu loh. Mindless repetition, which can still be useful if you are learning very small things within language, like pronunciation misalnya. Itu harus diulang 100 kali. You have to repeat it, as often as you can in order for you to be able to pronounce th, for example, or some other difficult sounds in the English language. The other side of repetition is known as mindful repetition. I think that's what Mita is trying to say. Mindful means meaning, contextualized repetition. Yeah. And when you learn how to speak, for example, it has to be mindful. It has to be contextualized. It has to be very clear in terms of the purpose of communication, in terms of who you are talking to, in what situations, in what context. Because speaking is much more complex than just learning how to spell, for example. Spelling, mindless repetition is probably okay. Yeah, pronunciation, for example, mindless repetition is probably okay. Although it's much better if you can make it more mindful, more interesting, more joyful, kind of a repetition. Jadi begitu, Mbak.
Oh, thank you so
Kalau
much for
belajar membaca
sharing.
misalnya, hanya dengan menghafal tata bahasa, menghafal kosakata, nggak bisa. Pasti nggak bisa. Karena membaca is much more complex than just knowing the words. Berbicara is much more complex than just knowing how to pronounce misalnya begitu. So I think we need to make that distinction. But having said that, repetition is something that we should always do in the language classroom, because it's only through repeated encounters, repeated reading, repeated speaking, repeated writing that the students can eventually develop a high level of proficiency in the language that they are learning. The repetition is good, but it is the one that is interesting, mindful, thoughtful repetition, which is very important for us to remember.
Thank you so much for sharing your perspective. Yes, I agree with you because I learned a lot from repetition. As a beginner, I start to learn English,
Oh, yes,
especially
yes.
in speaking with memorization. So yeah, I think it's very important to be mindful in repetition. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for the very interactive question and answer between Yumna as the master degree students and also Pak Willy and Bu Laksmita. Thank you very much. Ibu Puji, now Yumna also addressed the questions to you. So please you can directly answer the question.
Okay, before I answer Nabila's question regarding CL and active learning, I have a comment on this practice of mindful memorization, Pak Willy. Last month, your colleague I mean, he's a PhD candidate from NIE, NTU, YKIT. He came here through Zoom, and he talked about learning by heart, memorizing poetry by heart, and he labels that as pedagogy of hope, because by memorizing a poetry by heart, students would, or English learners would internalize the messages and then particular language in the poem or in the poetry. So yeah, so your colleague Waikit came just last month talking about that.
Very nice.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to Nabila. Thank you for the question. I think Miss Fatwa and I missed a slide in our presentation, in my presentation. So the slide shows how cooperative learning, among other methods, is under the umbrella of active learning. So it's also called student-centered learning or student-oriented learning. The idea is that students do the learning, students do the talking. So you have a concern regarding students that might rely too much on their peers, on their group members. If you implement CL, cooperative learning, I can guarantee that no one is left behind or no one could just do nothing. No one will just rely on their peers because of the structure in cooperative learning techniques or structures. So, for example, a famous cooperative learning technique, namely round robin, for example, it makes sure that everyone takes turn talking. For example, Pak Willy, Bu Mita, and I, we are in the same group, CL group. So the three of us would take turn talking. So, for example, our teacher asks us, what do you have in mind whenever you see or whenever you hear the term deep learning? So each of us will share our thoughts. And I don't think that would, disrupt our thinking, but the conversation among us will enrich our understanding of deep learning. So it is the structure in cooperative learning techniques that make sure no one will rely too much on the other members. Because through the structure, positive interdependence is guaranteed. Thank you.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much,
Bu Novia.
Yumna.
Bu
Yes.
Novia, can I quickly make a comment on the video that Ibu Puji shared early on? Bu Puji, if you could,
Yes.
if you could play the video again very briefly.
Okay.
The video of the
Okay.
teacher explaining
Sure.
recounts and things like that. I think that is very interesting.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I have concealed the identity of the school and the identity of the teacher, so I think it's safe. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, let me do
Yes.
that.
Just very briefly. I think this is something that should be of interest to many of the teachers in the audience. Hey, Asih is here, Asih Kuswandari from Sulawesi.
Please take a moment. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Let's play the video for
Yeah.
just 30 seconds.
Free context is text. retell past event or someone's experience. Ya, jadi recount text adalah teks yang menjelaskan tentang kejadian yang sudah terjadi atau pengalaman. Ya. It is related to simple past tense, berhubungan dengan simple past tense karena menggunakan verb
Ya, cukup
Okay.
Bu Puji.
So
Yes.
what is logical function?
Yes.
Sure.
I wonder if you notice any problem in the way language or text types are taught in that video. I think this is a very typical way of teaching apa namanya text types atau genre-based approach to language teaching ya di Indonesia ya. Would you like to comment on that, Nabila?
Yes, I
Is
think.
Is there anything wrong with that?
Yeah, I think it's too teacher centered. Like the
Precisely,
teacher,
yes.
the teacher didn't give the students to do some activities like
Yes.
active learning. Maybe they can use like for the apa ya untuk memasah sensoriknya itu they need something gitu untuk di touch gitu. Maybe they can
betul.
learn from round robin atau think pair share or anything regarding to the structure of CL, I think.
Yes. Asih, how are you, Asih? Asih Kuswandari. Oh, she's not listening. Okay. Yes. I just wanted to say that that's not how you teach language. That's not how you teach text structure. I think you are just teaching knowledge of the structure of a text type. I think what we need to do is to teach how a text type, a text structure, or a genre like a recount is actually used. I think what you need to do is to get to the speaker and then maybe explain, what recount is like in less than 2 or 3 minutes. That's all. But the moment you start explaining, a text type has the following structure, a text type is used for the following purposes, you are teaching the knowledge. You're not teaching the skill. You're not teaching language as ability. I think that is what I see as a big problem with the genre-based approach to language teaching. I have nothing to say bad about the genre-based approach to language teaching, but the way we teach, I think is will have to be rethought. Will have to be reassessed. That's not how we teach. That's not how we learn language, actually. But would you
I'm with you, Pak Willy, and I guarantee that in English for Change, the textbook I show you, such practice won't be there.
Yeah.
So I'm actually promoting English for Change. Back to Dr. Novia Trisanti.
Oh, okay. Thank you for a very interactive discussions. Saya menikmati itu. Okay, very insightful information. I think I'll go to the next questions, because there are several questions. Okay, so wait for Dr. Willy tadi. So, Ibu.
Ibu Pasta has a question.
Ibu Pasca, do you have? No, there is questions from Ibu Dian Sari Marsa. Okay. I'm a master student at UNES. Okay. Mr. Willy's presentations on critical thinking resonated with me, and I'd like to ask a question. Is there any chance that using Red Hat still holds? What is it? Apa tadi? Okay. Ibu Dian, are you still there? Ibu Dian, maybe want to ask directly to
Itu Dian tuh.
Yes. Okay. So, okay, silakan.
Okay, thank you for the chance that has given to me. I would like to ask Mr. Willy, since I ever say that there is saying, believe your intuitions when you want to make a good decisions like that. So I would like to ask, is there any chance for using our Red Hat while we are in critical mode, in critical thinking mode? Like that. That's my question, sir. Thank
Nggak
you.
bisa, Dian. there are different types of intuitions. You know, if your intuitions are based on years and years of very good, very meaningful experiences, then eventually that will become part of you. That will become part of your intuition. And when you use that intuition to make judgment, I think that's fine. But I think the first thing for us to understand is that many of our past experiences sometimes or very often may not be a good guidance for us to make decisions. Yeah. So occasionally, yes. For example, I've been teaching, for example, for more than 30 years, and I've developed, this huge amount of intuitions that I have about different types of students and how they do things in the classroom. That intuition is very useful, and I can use that intuition to think very quickly about, students. I can be wrong sometimes, but most of the time I think I am okay using my intuition. But having said that, I still need to slow down. I still need to consider, possibilities, consider choices and options. It's always good to slow down, yeah, and think more clearly and think more carefully about the different situations that you are facing. But let me say this very clearly so that you don't misunderstand me. Can we, or can people, can you and me be critical all the time? Silakan dijawab. Can we be critical all the time? Dian, silakan dijawab. Jawabannya tidak. Please say no. The answer is no. Tidak bisa. We cannot be critical all the time. Why? Because we are not good at thinking slowly and thinking carefully all the time. Thinking slowly or thinking deeply about the topic is very tiring, melelahkan. Yeah, and we don't want to be tired all the time. So when you are dealing with important decisions, then you have to make use of your critical thinking skills. But on a daily basis, kalau ketemu dengan orang misalnya makan malam bersama, jangan kritis-kritis lah begitu. I think you will be making a lot of enemies if you are critical when you are having a social conversation. Nggak bisa, nggak perlu juga gitu loh. Yeah. So critical thinking is something that we have to learn how to use strategically. When it calls upon you to be critical, then you can slow down and think more carefully and clearly about things. But on a daily basis, jangan Dian. Yeah, if you are a married person and you are critical all the time, your husband will not be too happy with you. Your children will not be too happy with you. Yeah, begitu.
Yes, thank you,
Thank you,
Dr.
sir.
Wilna. Ibu Dian, is clear enough? Okay.
Yes,
So next
of
time maybe
course.
you can use white hat,
Perfect
red
answer.
hat, or the
Yes.
combination of hats. Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Thank you very much for a very interactive discussion between Pak Willy and Bu Dian. Now, I found there is an interesting questions from Ibu Siti Azizah Putri. All right. So I had anxiety in speaking English in class, okay, when she was undergraduate. This happened because of my environment, which may not be so supportive. My friends often laughed, and I felt unsure to speak in English in the class. However, when I started teaching at school with students who have special needs, okay, I noticed that they were more confident in speaking English with me. They seem to believe that I understood what they were trying to say. Does this mean that a student's oracy ability is also influenced by their intelligence? I would love to hear from Bapak Willy, Bu Yusefa, and Ibu Mita. So I hope Pak Willy and Bu Mita can answer these questions. This
Bumita
is
is an expert on anxiety. Bumita, go ahead.
Bu Mita, please.
Oh, I'm anxious, but really. All right. This is a very good question, but to be honest, it's a very sensitive question, if I may be honest, because we're dealing with special needs students, and I have no experience dealing with special needs students in teaching English. But what I can say is that even though they're special needs, it doesn't mean that they are not intelligent, right? They are intelligent in their own ways. And if we're talking about the well-built or the normal, I should not say normal. What is the correct word, Pak Willie? Should I say normal or I'm not so sure. But in my case, in my personal idea and opinion is that when we're dealing with students, they have different personalities and they have different ways of dealing with these kinds of situations. And this can be considered as bullying. Am I right, Bu Siti? It's a little bit like the bullying. And that can be a very stressful situation. And for special needs students, I don't think they have that kind of interaction, bullying one with another. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not familiar with these kinds of situation dealing with special needs students. But to answer your question, is it about intelligence? Well, speaking is about being intelligent enough in saying something, right? And responding is also a part of being intelligent. You know, you have those multiple intelligences, then being able to respond, that's also social intelligence, right? So it's the way that we respond to not to each other is a part of the social agent that we're talking about, and being able to be critical, it doesn't mean that you have to bully other people. So again, I cannot really give you a proper answer for this question, Ibu Siti Aziza, because I'm not really familiar with special needs children, and I don't really have that experience. But again, when we talk about intelligence, all of us have intelligence in different ways. And the way that we communicate with other students, be it normal students or those with special needs, we have to have different segues to communicate. I think that's all I can say for now. But Willie?
Nothing for me. I think you have explained very clearly about anxiety and, you know, how it works with, you know, special needs students.
Well,
No additional
okay.
comments from me.
How about Ibu Siti Aziza? It's already clear the answer from Ibu Mita. Are you there, Ibu Siti Aziza?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much.
All right. So finally, ladies and gentlemen, it's already 12 o'clock. Okay, so actually we run out of the time. So I think I have to stop the very interactive discussion, okay, between all the keynote speakers and the participants here. So now, as we reach the conclusion of this webinar, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our esteemed all speakers, yeah, for sharing their expertise, and to all participants, okay, for your very active engagement. So today's discussion has underscored the importance of collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking in shaping, yeah, effective teaching and learning and professional growth. So we hope the insights shared today will inspire further reflection and application in your respective fields. So again, thank you very much, Bapak Dr. Willy Arenandia, Ibu Yusefa, Ibu Mita, Cikdam, and also Prof. Puji. Okay, thank you again for being part of this event, and we look forward to future discussion and collaboration. Okay, and wishing you all the continued success. Okay, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'll give it back to Ibu Pasca as the master of ceremony. Ibu Pasca, are you still here?
Hi. Yes, I'm here. Bu Novia, thank you so much for giving your best as the moderator today. You know, it's kind of fruitful discussion. I really enjoy it. I didn't realize that it's already 12. So finally, ladies and gentlemen, that's all for our webinar today. And hopefully you enjoy our engaging webinar. And on behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to thank all the distinguished speakers. Pak Willy, thank you. Abu Mita, thank you so much. Prof. Puji, thank you so much. And also Bu Yusefa and Chigdam. So, and also I would like to say thank you for all participants for joining this webinar today. And all the best for you. And I'll see you at our event. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye-bye.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Taking pictures, Bu
Oh,
Pasca.
Oh
Bye,
yeah, in
everyone.
Indonesia, every minute is taking picture, everyone.
Picture.
So I think you need to turn your camera on.
SDF juga nih ya.
Yes, and you know, we're going to have some screenshot for today's session. Okay, Pak Anam, are you ready with that? Okay, so go to the camera and say cheese, maybe cheese. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone, and have a good day. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye-bye.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Pak Dr.
everyone.
Willy, Ibu
Thank you,
Yusefa,
everyone. Thank you,
Ibu
Dr.
Mita,
Willy. Bye.
Cikdam, Prof. Puji, thank you very much. Thank you very much,
Terima
Thank
Bapak
kasih.
you.
Ibu, audiens semuanya. Terima kasih
Thank
banyak.
you. Asih Kuswandari.
Yes, Dr. Willy.
I've been calling out your names.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Is there
Thank you very much, Pak
certificate?
Willy.
Thank you, bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Ibu Sri Wahyuni, Ibu Prof.
Sama-sama Bapak Ibu, terima kasih banyak.
Itu sertifikat kan, Bri?